The story begins with the hero complaining that 3 years of his adult life have already passed, but there is no car, no house, no girlfriend. From early childhood, he was a martial guy, but he always believed in one truth: create miracles with strength, so he persistently practiced martial arts. All his enemies said that he was a bad fighter. Many fighters were defeated, but everyone did not claim that the hero was unworthy to fight. Even though they were surrounded and were about to leave here, they still asked him for mercy so that he would stop beating them. They literally begged Big Brother to leave their faces alone for today. At the same time, the hero knew that winning was not so easy. As it turned out, the main character's name is Du Ganren. He was the legendary demon who was able to defeat the martial arts school with his own hands, and even without breaking a sweat. Originally, he only wanted to challenge some people to try his hand, but he unexpectedly gathered a bunch of heirs. From then on, he took his younger brothers and began to fight for justice in the city where they all lived. Also, from time to time, Du Ganren did a lot of business. At a party where there were many guests, the hero announced that the Axe Gang had been driven away by them, and now he, Du Ganren, would be the leader. The Axe Gang was famous for all this money, now he could dispose of it. And he was going to invest them in other people's businesses, so that they could now make money together. One of the men exclaimed that the Axe Gang people had always bullied them before. Now that brother Du Ganren is here, their business will finally start to develop. Many businessmen were willing to give up their share of the business, and could even share half of their profits. The people around him considered him simply an amazing person. Soon, he changed. From a young man with nothing, Du Ganren turned into an entrepreneur with money, a girlfriend and status. Everything was on fire, of course, business was booming, so there were scoundrels who tried to kill him. There were a huge number of such scoundrels, because everyone was eager to get part of the money that the main character had. At the same time, they did not know who they were attacking, because the guy himself was unusual. After all, he could easily repel any attack, because he possessed many martial arts, and alone he could defeat an entire army. As a result, such attempts did not end well for the enemies. Events continue in Du Ganren's personal account. Opposite him sits a girl talking about business. She hopes that this time their cooperation will be successful, and also said that next time he needs to be careful, because someone might want a part of Du Ganren's business. The self-confident guy thanked the girl named Yufeng, and also said that his enemies were afraid of him, and they would not dare to attack him anymore. And today no one knows about the secret conversation, except for him and Jiro. The girl can only prepare a festive banquet. The same lady named Jiro, who knows that the gun is not capable of injuring him, but continues to passionately try to protect him from the bullet. Yufeng sincerely did not trust the savior because of this. Looking at his phone, the guy realized that something was actually wrong, and Jiro was still not there, although she should have already arrived. In the messages, Lady wrote that she had prepared a gift for her sweetheart, so she asked him to get ready to receive it. Suddenly, a deafening roar was heard, and an unknown sound was behind the guy. A giant plane crashed directly into the window. Du Ganren exclaimed that he really didn't expect this. She even sent a plane to kill him. It really flattered him. The plane was broken, and it was too late, and its slogan was always one phrase. Namely, it is necessary to remain optimistic in any situation. And then, he ordered Yufeng to see what was about to happen. Swinging at a giant plane, he wanted to make a blow of unimaginable power in order to destroy the giant aircraft. The fist was aimed clearly at the side of the plane, and it began to stop abruptly after a crushing blow hit the plane. At the same time, the hero felt an unusual sensation that he had never experienced before. After hitting the plane, everything around him changed color and he thought he was dead. After looking around, Du Ganren realized that fortunately he was still alive. Laughing, he thought about what he was told: if a person does not die in a disaster, he will be blessed. After everything that happened, his blessing is called the Champions League. Suddenly, a beautiful goddess of the system appeared in front of Du Ganren, striking in her beauty. Several other beauties also came into his field of vision. One of them was called Beautiful Little Sister Chuan. The other one in turn is a stunning little sister. The third was a sweet little girl, and even more heroines who amazed with their beauty and whose appearance made your mouth open. Observed by all the girls, Ganren understood that there was not only a lot of beauty here, but also a lot of advantages. Without hindrance, he could watch the beautiful girls that surrounded him, and he was not even punished for it. Just when he thought he could enjoy the blessing of all these people, things didn't go according to plan. After all, he discovered that he was in the midst of the end of the world with rampant zombies. Crowds of the living dead roamed the ruined outskirts of the city, eating all the living that were in their way. Altogether they were in such a terrible world. In such places there are always some kind of plug-ins. All the skills were here, they were in front of him, and the goddess of the system told them to upgrade them and look at the detailed characteristics. The first skill that he decided to upgrade was pupil surgery. It was a special ability of the eyes, but its level was 0, updated, at the moment useless, only basic functions were promising. Without hesitation, the guy chose this skill and upgraded it first. The space around him immediately began to change, and an incredibly bright light surrounded his human silhouette. The eye, in turn, also changed. Now it looked like the eye of a predator. The hero immediately decided to look at the goddess of the system to try out his new ability. Suddenly, in front of him, he found a girl who was wearing beautiful clothes, and something in her had clearly changed. Of course, there will be no free lunch in the world. Then he asked the girl to let him live, and give him a plugin to actually allow him to destroy all the zombies in order to save the future, and then all the zombies turned to gold before his eyes. It was truly amazing, because at one moment many dead people turned into mountains of gold. In this case, Du Ganren realized what needed to be done now. All zombies that were in this world must be destroyed. By killing such a huge number of zombies, it was a real option to become rich, and this is not a dream at all, because it is feasible. The joyful guy asked not to stop him for anything, because he just wants to be an apocalyptic worker. Happy Du Ganren circled around and destroyed the gigantic amount of zombies that were in his way. And then, he decided to tell me what the essence of gold is in this bloody world, because money is really useless for ordinary people in their last days, but he needs it, for example, to upgrade his skills. Ever since the first pot of gold was obtained, the pupil technique leveling skill had been activated. The function of the Hitomi gate is that it is possible to return the owner to the real world. Thanks to upgrading your first skill, you will be able to communicate with the real world, but this opportunity will only be in the future. This was amazing for the guy, and then he wanted to find out how much nitrogen he could use. As it turned out, each journey requires only 100 million gold. For such a fee, Du Ganren will be able to live in the real world for 24 hours. He sighed heavily. He immediately realized that gold was indeed very useful for him, but now he was still too poor. Realizing this, he immediately realized that he would destroy zombies with such success until the end of his days. In any case, it brought him enormous pleasure, because this was truly his calling. Thanks to his incredible skills, he could literally destroy the terrifying zombie clown that stood in his way in one movement. Many types of zombies attacked him, but he could cope with everyone, because he was the strongest in this world. With the help of dexterity, the guy dodged every blow that the terrifying monster dealt him and made counterattacks. Thus, Du Ganren decided to form his own women's team, make a huge fortune that will be the envy of many people. He had so much money that he could swim in it. But this is still only the future, and we are returning to the present, where Du Ganren is just entering the system. Realizing that it was all a dream, he woke up in the world of the system. After thinking a little about what was happening, he began to remember the events that happened earlier. And then he remembered what had just happened. Because of the plane crash that happened earlier, he ended up in this world. With regret, the hero realized that how Lanjin really died, and he could not even imagine that he would die in front of his people. Laughing, the boy began to think that he really managed to overcome the plane with his bare hands. But this girl would never have dared to finish him off like that. It looks like someone decided to take advantage of her. When the chance arose, the hero was going to find this freak and chop him into small pieces. Suddenly, a notification appeared in front of him on a huge screen. It stated that his name is Hao Lanjin, and he is the head of the Lanjin gang, died on May 25, 2020, and was chosen by the system as the savior of the Day of Judgment and gifted with rebirth in the world of the apocalypse. When completing the main task, he will have a chance to return to his world, and if he refuses to accept fate, then his world will be destroyed. With surprise, he watched the message, and realized what a chance he had in the apocalypse. But he also began to think that the same events happened in children's fairy tales. Moreover, if he refused, then his world would be destroyed along with him, and he had no choice. Without hesitation, after thinking just a little, the hero realized that since he was given a chance to be reborn, then he definitely couldn't refuse this. The guy happily pressed the button and thereby accepted the challenge. Suddenly, something began to happen, and his body was covered with a bright and mysterious light. The silhouette of a beautiful creature began to appear around him. It was the goddess of the system who congratulated the guy, because now he had become her master. And before that, the goddess wanted to briefly tell and describe the situation with the world of the apocalypse. In 2030, a special drink has spread throughout the world. Many people drank this drink, but no one yet knew what consequences it would lead to. It all started with the first patient who became ill after drinking a drink, and it had truly terrible consequences. Namely, transformation into a zombie. Zombies feed on blood and flesh, so they began to attack civilians. Those bitten by zombies turned into zombies and the virus continued to spread. Very quickly, society lost control and order, the world turned into an apocalypse. Therefore, Hao Lanjin was summoned to this world to save those people and let them restore their world, but it should also be remembered that here he does not have a second chance for rebirth, so he must try to stay alive. Hao Lanjin doubted, because he was too weak, and did not think that he would be able to save the world of the apocalypse. Moreover, the goddess sends him there with his bare hands. The lady was clearly not satisfied with this answer, because the hero with his bare hands jumped onto a plane flying at him, and since he is the chosen one, he should be helped. Before he was elected, there were 98 more chosen, but they were all defeated, and he is the 99th, and of course will receive help from the goddess. Such a number of people was stunning for the hero. He never expected that 98 people were trying to save this world. The goddess only gloated. She thought that the guy was scared, and he should beg her, get on his knees and ask for help. At the same time, the guy thought that this was a whole army, and the system was really useless, because it had sent so many people to their deaths. The control system only became indignant and shouted that Hao Lanren is useless. In order to increase the chances of survival, the system provides the owner with a choice of some abilities, but you can only choose one. Once the ability is selected, there will be no more chances to change, so he should think carefully. And then she decided to give him many abilities, but she could only choose one. By choosing it, she would be able to read the description. Examining his abilities, the guy thought that he knew almost all Shaolin techniques, and there was no point in choosing them. Unexpectedly, one ability came into his field of vision that he really liked. It was that same magical eye, a special eye technique. Its level was 0, an increase is possible, with an increase it will obtain new effects, and the current effect is X-ray. The joyful guy decided to choose this particular ability. A bright light enveloped his body, and his eyes began their transformation, because the skill he chose provides for not only changes in vision, but also in the eyes themselves. The eyes changed and became like the eyes of a predator. At the same moment, Hao Lanjin decided to look at the system goddess. His gaze focused on her robe, because he wanted to see the fifth how exactly does the X-ray technique work. The goddess did not like this behavior, and she ordered a magic eye on her, but the guy just wanted to understand how exactly this ability works. With sadness, the girl did not understand why she chose this idiot as a savior. She would have to endure in order to save the world. The fact that he uses the magic eye to peep under the girl's skirts did not please the goddess, and she said that the magic eye includes a special technique of the system called the Eye of the Head. In the world of the apocalypse, gold has lost its value, but in his hands, gold is a very valuable material. After all, in order to become stronger, he needs gold. He will have to donate coins to save this world and return to his own through the gates of the eyes. Moreover, his magic eye is still at 0 level and the hero has only one ability, namely X-ray. Realizing the benefits of this skill, the guy realized that thanks to the gates of the eyes, he could return to his real world. Laughing evilly, Hao continued to think that it would be very good when he finished off these traitors, and the goddess allowed him to be reborn, and soon they themselves would find out about everything. In addition to the class ability, the system gifts him with a beginner's bag, where you can find food for 20 days, and a blade. It is possible to get these items with the power of thought, and you need to use them wisely, after which the lady wished the guy good luck. Also, if Lanjin kills the undead, he will receive surprises and gifts. Soon after this, teleportation begins. A moment later, the hero found himself in some room, and did not understand what kind of place it was. There was some noise behind him, and he decided to turn around. Then the stunned guy saw the lady standing behind the curtain. He was glad for such a quick reward. Having come to his senses, Hao realized that it was time to finish, because he is not a pervert, because this is a post-apocalyptic world, there are zombies all around, and there is no point in rejoicing. Using his ability, the smart guy decided to see what was behind the screen. As it turned out, there really was a girl there, but he knew that it was his first time in this world, so he should be careful. Sighing with relief, Hao began to think that perhaps the zombies here look like this. The screen began to move apart, and the guy watched in surprise who was coming out of there. Unexpectedly, many shots came straight at the traveler, who was not expecting anything. A few seconds after the shootout, a mysterious lady came out from behind the screen, taking a giant knife with her. Seeing her, the surprised Hao did not know what to do. Without thinking twice, the angry girl began to attack the hero, and wanted to do it with a knife. Many blows came straight at the newly arrived guy, but he was easily able to dodge each of them, because he was a difficult person. Fortunately, thanks to his skill, he still managed to stop the fighting girl by snatching the knife from her. Having stopped her, the guy decided to pacify the impudent lady, and sat over her. Confused, the unknown woman began to scream, because she wanted to find out where such a pervert came from, because she wanted to gouge out his eyes. Smiling, Guy E just said that he didn't do it on purpose, her towel just looked very beautiful. This angered the already angry girl even more, and she again wanted to finish off the hero. Fortunately, with the help of his strong hands, the guy was again able to easily stop the lady. Breaking free from her hands, the restless girl began to fight, only using her legs. The smart guy decided to take advantage of the moment and grabbed the attacker's leg. Calling the warlike lady a beauty, he asks if she really wants to kill him, or if she decided to hug him. At the same time, the girl herself did not understand how this could be. From the very beginning of this zombie apocalypse she survived thanks to her powers, but where did this guy come from, because he is so strong? In desperation, the warlike girl began to shout that she could not defeat him, and she was very unlucky, but she was not going to give up, and it would be better for them to die together, because she could call such a horde of zombies here that he would have a hard time. They flock very quickly to the smell of blood, and they will be close very soon. Surprised, Hao Lanjun decided to ask how she was going to release blood. The mysterious girl's hands continued to tremble, she couldn't help but move, as well as her legs, but still tried to resist. Opening her mouth, the lady began to bite the scoundrel who grabbed her, and soon she made several brutal bites, after which, she began to fall to the floor, because she no longer had the strength. Falling to the floor, she said that she had been hungry for too long, so her strength had run out. Next time the lady would definitely be able to defeat him. Hearing this, Hao Lanjun never took women by force, they usually clung to him. Indignant, the girls said that in this world no one can be trusted, especially perverts like him. At that moment, Hao remembered his supplies, which the goddess of the system gave him, so he took out some canned food from his backpack, and he kindly provided them to the hungry lady, who was amazed at such good nature. Then she thought, is he really the god of canned food? Canned food in their world is a very valuable product, and she did not believe that the stranger was such a good-natured person, so she wanted to find out what he wanted for them. Having opened the canned food, Hao decided to try it, and realized that they really had a precious dinner for today, so it is best to cook it over a fire, high-grade meat washed with the purest water, and fried in oil. Such a dinner should blow their minds. With tears in her eyes, the girl listened to him and swallowed her saliva, because she was very hungry. And the smell of the canned food was truly divine. Looking sweetly at the stranger, the lady realized that she was insanely hungry. Taking the canned food in her hands, she decided that it was better to die from poison on a full stomach. Having tried the canned food, she was simply amazed by the taste. Besides, the guy didn't do anything to her, so she didn't think that he had bad thoughts. Turning away from the hero, she was able to eat an entire can of canned food in a few seconds. And then she turned around indignantly, and plaintively she began to ask if he still had canned food. Smart Hao Lanjun found out the girl's name. Her name was Yechi Xiaoli. There were still canned goods for her, but she only had to answer a couple of questions. Expecting a catch, Yechi Xiaoli was indignant and asked not to think about what kind of canned food she would agree to anything. Some time later, events continued late at night. After talking with Yechi Xiaoli, the guy realized that they were now in the south of the Hua state, in a city called Chuanzhou. The spread of the virus began 3 years ago. Most of the survivors gathered at this point, but there are many others who are now near them due to the fact that a large zombie horde has accumulated at the northern gate of the city. Yeki Xiaoli gave a map of the city of Chuanzhou, and with it in moving forward will be much easier. Taking the card with him, Hao thanked the lady for the exchange and said that it was time for him to leave. About to jump out of the window, he also didn't forget to mention that the girl really has a great figure. Confused, she again called the hero a pervert. And at the same time I thought that this guy suddenly showed up next to her bathroom, and also had such precious food with him. After thinking for a while, Yechi Xiaoli decided that she didn't really want to do this, but she should still go with him, maybe she could get even more food. Chasing the stranger, the lady continued to follow him. Feeling this, the hero immediately realized that Glutton was watching him from behind. It didn't matter to him, because she was certainly not bad, so let her follow him. The goddess of the system previously said that killing zombies can give you good rewards. I don't know what kind of awards we are talking about. The guy decided that it was worth killing a couple of zombies in order to find out. Suddenly, not seeing a tin can in front of him, he accidentally hits it. The sound of a tin can immediately rang out around him, and he attracted a lot of attention. The zombies that were nearby immediately heard him, and they felt that there was something living next to them. In anticipation of the person, the zombies were preparing for the attack, hiding. Walking through the deserted outskirts of the city, Hao thought about where all the zombies were, and did not understand whether he really didn't smell at all. Suddenly, the window next to the room he was passing by breaks, and an angry zombie jumps out. Seeing him, the hero immediately grinned, because he realized that this was his first goal. Having evaded the living dead, the guy was considering further actions in order to fight. Stepping back a few meters, he continued to think through his next steps to attack the zombies. Having thought about what was happening, the guy immediately realized that the zombie was attracted by the sound of a tin can. This meant that zombies were sensitive to sound. The vile and dirty zombie continued to move towards his goal. He attacked in order to eat the person who is in front of him. Dodging another blow, Hao thought that the zombie had good speed. If he scratched him, the guy would definitely turn into the same freak. That is why it is worth trimming the claws of this impudent zombie. For this, the blade that the goddess of the system had previously given was called upon. Moments later, thanks to the blade, the zombie no longer had his claws, as well as the hands with which he struck. Calling the zombie trash, the hero asked him to repeat his pathetic tricks. Suddenly, something strange began to happen to the dead man. The hands and claws of the living dead were restored in a matter of seconds. Running away from a strong zombie, Hao Lanjin shouted after him that it was so dishonest and he couldn't restore his limbs. The powerful zombie made his attack again and was about to hit the guy from behind. Without hesitation, the hero again decided to decide his hands. Grinning wickedly, the living dead regained his arms. And this was repeated every time. The guy deprived the hands of the living dead, and he, in turn, easily restored them. This continued indefinitely, because the zombie could do this all the time. Then they both got tired and could no longer fight. Looking into each other's eyes, the battle still continued. Hao Lanjin knew that this could no longer continue, because if his opponent could grow limbs, then he needed to change tactics. Then he decides to throw away his blade in order to use other methods of fighting the impudent zombie. Thus, he decides to use one of the heaven-terrifying blows. And with all his strength he begins to make his blow, which should crush the evil zombie. Seeing this, zombie immediately realized that he could not remain idle, and he began to try to block the hero's attack. The blow followed straight into the blocking of the living dead, and the light spread over the entire surface of his body. The force of the blow crushed everything in its path, as well as the dead man who was struck by the blow that the hero made. The power and force of the blow sent the enemy flying several meters to the side. As he fell to the ground, he clearly couldn't fight anymore. Still, the experience of playing computer games made itself felt. The only weak point of the zombies is their head. Having killed the zombie, a lot of gold coins also began to appear from it. With joy, the guy realized that in this way he could earn gold coins. And this is the surprise that the goddess of the system spoke about. Suddenly, the coin he picked up began to dissolve, just like the hero himself. At the same time, he reappeared in the world of the system, and the goddess of the system congratulated the owner for killing the first zombie. For killing one zombie you received 1 million coins. With this balance you can start donating. Anticipating success, Hao Lanjin realized that he was right after all, and he had to hit it right in the head. Besides, so many coins for killing one zombie was incredible, and soon he would become rich. For receiving the first bucket of gold, one of the branches of development of the abilities of the magical eye was opened. To upgrade to the eye of martial spirit, you will need another 10 million gold, and the money is not enough yet. This answer truly stunned the guy, and he did not expect that such a huge amount would be needed to upgrade his first skill. The golden eye skill is X-ray. The next skill of the eye of martial spirit is hidden for now. If the hero wants to open it, then he needs to earn more money. In addition, the eye gate was activated. The eye gate allows the owner to return to his world. It turned out that the hero was waiting for this and wanted to find out how many coins were needed for this. According to the goddess, it was inexpensive. For each transition only 100 million gold coins would be needed, and besides, he would be in his world for no more than 24 hours. Sighing heavily, the guy realized what fate awaited him. In turn, the lady asked not to be upset and to continue working, after which she wanted to give the last instruction. Only objects can be stored in space, living beings cannot. In addition, the gold that he receives is visible only to the hero himself, and you can't touch gold. The gold itself automatically replenishes the system account. When the owner goes into system space, time in the world stops, so there is no need to worry about being discovered or injured. The goddess of the system also clarified that these warnings would be able to be used at any time, and not to forget to call the girl, after which she wished him good luck and teleported him back to the world of the apocalypse. At the same time, the guy understood that luck would not help him here, because a huge amount of money needed to be earned in order to open these damn gates of the eyes. Having warmed up a little, Hao Lanren prepared to continue earning gold and shredding zombies. Meanwhile, a girl was watching him. Yeki Xiaoli thought that the stranger killed the zombie with one blow, and he had amazing strength. And also, the guy is not at all familiar with their world, because why would such a gifted person with endless resources go to this hole, and she was very interested in what other items he had. Continuing to follow, she decided to follow the guy further. Jumping down to the place where the guy was passing, she continued to follow him. And she thought about how mysterious this stranger was, and she had to figure out who he was. The events continued in a gloomy city full of vile and aggressive zombies. Meanwhile, Hao killed the next zombies that stood in his way. His balance was already 5 million, having come a long way. The hero was only able to kill a few zombies. He still had to plow and plow up to 100 million, and he wanted to find out where all the zombies had gathered. Suddenly, the guy smelled some kind of stench next to him. Because of this strong stench, the hero almost fainted. It turned out that it was a note in which someone asked for help. It was a girl who hid near the amusement park. There were a lot of zombies in it, and she begged to save her. Realizing that this could help him, the hero now realized that he knew where most of these creatures were. A few tens of minutes later, the events continued in the amusement park. Passing by the next attraction, the brave man looked for zombies that were hiding somewhere nearby. Near the next attraction, the hero discovered something. He saw the girl who probably wrote that very note. The stranger was crying and begging to save her. Rejoicing at the stranger who came to her aid, the girl calls to her for the guy to come over. Tears rolled down her face, and she experienced great fear, because she saw something terrible. On her way there were 2 terrible zombies who looked at her and wanted to eat her. One of the zombies was dressed as a very scary clown who was about to attack. Not understanding what to do, the girl just continued to cry and asked for help from everyone she could shout to. Suddenly, the hand of a vile and dirty zombie reached out to the girl. At the same time, the brave hero threw something at the unclean dead man to hit him with his power. The tearful lady was amazed that her savior had come to the rescue. The vile zombie suffered greatly and was missing one limb, because the hero was able to destroy it with just one blow. Smiling, the guy said that they had all become zombies, but they continued to harass the girls. But before, Hao Lanjin beat up clowns during his lifetime, these pitiful scum. In the eyes of the zombie clown one could see aggression, which only intensified with every second. Hearing the insults addressed to them, many zombies began to react to them. Several dead men headed straight towards the hero to try to attack. With just one movement of his hand, the guy directed it to carry out the subsequent attack. With just one blow, a magical beam was created that pierced the head of the vile zombie. The brave warrior continued to fight the impudent zombies, and took out his magic blade, which he wanted to harm the dead. The zombies continued to walk and did not stop because they wanted to attack a living person. The main zombie clown solved the problem with just one blow from his blade, and the hero, in turn, received 1,000,000 gold coins as a reward. Many disgusting creatures continued their attack, but the unshakable hero did not give up and continued to fight the dead. Using his knife, he struck again, striking the dagger directly at one of the enemies. Unfortunately, the dagger flew past and only slightly wounded one of the enemy creatures. The fight continued. How bravely continued to fight against the crowd of maddened people. With his agility, he could easily avoid any attack, and at the same time counterattack. Inflicting multiple wounds, the zombies died in a matter of seconds, thereby not having time to regenerate. Without a doubt, the guy continued to fight and destroy a huge number of villains. Meanwhile, the number of gold coins in his account was constantly replenished. Literally every second he became richer. Realizing that the enemies were finally gone, the guy breathed a sigh of relief. All this time, an unfamiliar girl was watching him and was surprised, because this guy alone was able to kill a large number of zombies. Having collected her thoughts, the stranger approached the main character and said that she really liked him, because he was incredibly strong. She stood motionless for 10 seconds and waited for an answer. After 20 seconds there was no response either. Not understanding what was happening, the stranger did not know how long the guy would stand and not answer her. Suddenly, Lady noticed that the heroes took one of the zombies and began rummaging through his pants. The stunned girl did not understand what was happening, and why the mysterious guy was doing this. At the same time, the hero did not understand why the zombie was empty, because gold rains from other zombies. He began to shake the lifeless body of the zombie, hoping that coins would fall out of it. After this, the unknown girl saw something terrible that she could not have expected. The main character's tastes were clearly specific, and he wanted to knock gold coins out of the zombie by any means. Oddly enough, after an unusual method of obtaining coins, they began to fall off the dead zombie. The guys were really happy about this, because this situation was pleasant and profitable at the same time. The girl began to be afraid of this guy who was strong and also extracted gold coins from zombies in this way, so she wanted to escape. Oddly enough, the hero immediately heard and understood exactly where she was. Then the lady realized that she could not escape, because you rarely see a man here. No matter what he was like, she still thought it was worth trying to seduce him. A few seconds later, having collected her thoughts, she came out and was joyful, after which she told her brother that if it weren't for him, she would have died here. Finishing off another zombie, the hero only answered okay. The unknown woman was not satisfied with this answer, and she continued the conversation, saying that her name was Choo-Choo Sonomi, and she was looking for food, after which she came across a zombie, and had to run for so long that now it is difficult for her to run, because she had rubbed her feet. Darling was talking with the guy. She said that he was very strong, and asked to take her back, and for this she was going to thank him. Hearing that he would be thanked, he immediately decided to help. Turning to the lady, he wanted to know what kind of gratitude she was talking about, and whether she had gold. The mysterious girl blushed because she was embarrassed, and then asked her brother not to joke, because in this world no one has this nonsense. What this girl had was impossible not to eat, not to drink, and it was something more interesting. She was sure that the hero would like it. Frustrated, Hao Lanjun turned around and said that next time she could thank him, but now he has things to do. The girl tried in every possible way to stop him, because she didn't want him to refuse her offer, and she vehemently insisted that her brother should see her through. Realizing that the girl would not tolerate refusal, he turned to her and asked what would happen if his answer was no. Such a question stunned the girl, and she did not understand what to answer, because even her unsurpassed beauty does not work in this situation. Gathering all her will into a fist, she replied that she would take all measures to ensure that the savior agreed. Suddenly, Choo-Choo Sonomi began clapping her hands. Not understanding what was happening here, the guy was confused and expected the worst. Girls began to emerge from all corners and approached Hao Lanjun. They literally surrounded him. There were 4 of them in total. The unknown mysterious ladies were glad that Choo-Choo Sonomi found such a handsome man for them. For them, the stranger was a real diamond, because in the wasteland it is really rare to meet a man. The girls around him all considered him incredibly handsome, and the man they had been waiting for so long. Confused, the hero continued to look at the girls around him, as if he wanted to shout at them. But then he looked at each of them with loving eyes and said that they arrived as if on schedule. One of the girls who arrived wanted to know if the handsome guy could talk to girls. Fearing the consequences, Chu-Chu Sonomi immediately told Sister Hongying that this guy saved her and should not be touched. But the hero really liked this behavior, and the embarrassed guy literally asked him to continue. The girl was amazed by this behavior, because he seemed to her to be a guy with a non-traditional orientation. Why was he suddenly so happy about so many girls? Then she remembered the words from the film, which said that in this world any girl can take a man under her heel, but if a man refuses, then more girls are needed. Taking the blushing and embarrassed Hao Lanren's cheeks, the girls wanted to know if he would go with them, because the sisters really liked the guy. And if he goes with them, then all the girls will be his. They also had a lot of food and drinks, so they tried with all their might to attract their savior. At that moment, the hero decided to ask why so many beauties needed him, but he still agreed to go with them. The ladies continued to watch him intently, and only called him a fool. Meanwhile, they all thought that this fool was easily fooled, but he is too strong, so they must deal with him when he is distracted. The sisters have never lost, and soon he will know their strength. They all began to take out weapons that were hidden in different places under their clothes. Each of the girls wanted to get a weapon in order to carry out their attack as a group. Suddenly, the ladies discovered that their weapons were missing from their hiding places. The girls clearly did not expect such a turn of events, and were amazed at where exactly their weapons had gone. Behind the dangerous ladies, the stranger said it's not worth looking for. After all the weapons are right here, with him. The stunned fighting girls clearly did not expect such a turn of events, and realized that it seemed this guy was faking it. It turned out that Hao Lanjun had already discovered their scheme a long time ago. After all, something interesting happened 10 minutes ago. Then he just came here and immediately felt something was wrong. Even though the girl was surrounded by zombies, she couldn't tell that she was scared. That's why the guy decided to look at her with a magic eye. And it was not in vain, because with the help of the ability it was possible to reveal that the girl had a tranquilizer in her pocket. Accordingly, the tranquilizer does not work on zombies, but the guy knew exactly who it would really work on. But it's too dangerous to go out alone as bait. Therefore, Hao immediately realized that her partners were nearby. A couple of them hid nearby. They had weapons in their hands, and neither girl looked weak. This meant that everything that just happened was a bait trap, but Hao wanted to know why they needed a man. The hero also realized that it was he who had been setting up such ambushes all the time, and since the girls wanted to catch him, now he would punish them. To do this, the guy used the technique of a businessman from the previous world. And he collected all their weapons. Now he wanted to see what they would do without him. Realizing that the girls could no longer resist, the guy began to ask them to show everything they had. Otherwise they won't have a second chance. The angry ladies understood that this guy had revealed their plan, and without weapons they could not do anything. Still, the girls did not decide to stop, and even if he revealed their plan, it did not change anything, because not a single man had been able to escape from them. Immediately after this, the sisters began their attack and went into battle. Before the fight, Hao decided to apologize, after which he prepared to fight. The angry girls wanted him to go with them, and he did it in an amicable way, without getting into a fight. At the same time, the hero could easily resist the girls who began to attack him. At one of them, he first intercepted his fist to avoid a blow, and then tripped her and she began to fall to the floor. In order to completely neutralize the target, a tranquilizer was inserted into its rear area, thus it will now be immobilized. Despite what was happening to the previous girl, the attack continued, with another lady carrying out the attack behind her. Jumping several meters up, the fighting lady performed a kick right on the guy's head. The hero was not so easy, and he could easily withstand this attack because he had a rope with which he wrapped the attacker's leg. Thus, she too was immobilized, because she could not complete her blow. The lady was really outraged by this, because she did not expect that a man would oppose her in such a fight. The clever hero began to spin his attacker with the help of a rope, and thereby turned her head to such an extent that she could not stand on her feet. Despite the already amazed two girls, the other two wanted to continue their attack, and attack together. They again headed towards the hero and continued the attack from behind him in order to use the effect of surprise and strike together. The dexterous and smart guy was able to easily dodge the attack of two girls. Fortunately, at the moment of impact, Hao was able to cuff their hands. And then he put a knife to one of the girls and ordered her not to move. The excited ladies were confused at that moment, but still did not lose hope of winning this fight. Not wanting to fight with them anymore, the guy was easily able to neutralize one of the girls, and she lost consciousness. Meanwhile, someone was watching the guy with an optical sight. The observer thought about whether men don't have the strength to resist such beauties. It was Yechi Xiaoli who didn't think that this guy wouldn't fall for the fighting girl's tricks when he showed up in her bath, but apparently she was wrong. Now the fighting girls were completely tied up and could no longer fight. It was truly strange for the guy that all the living people he met in this world turned out to be women. As it turned out, they were all members of the Black Lily gang, and Hao deserves great punishment for his tricks. Hearing this, the guy realized that these girls do not seem to be from the Black Lily gang, because they are more like the Black Hearts gang. Without standing on ceremony with the beautiful girls, he asked to answer one question, otherwise he was going to feed them to the zombie. From their clothes one could understand that it was not only Chu-Chu Sonomi who acted as bait for men. In addition to those words that not a single man has ever escaped from them, what actually happened to those men, because for the whole day the hero could not meet a single man, and fell into their trap. Chu-Chu Sonomi immediately exclaimed that he really doesn't know that men have become very valuable animals. This answer truly amazed the guy, because he did not expect that men had become valuable animals. When the epidemic broke out, something strange began to happen. Men were the first to become infected after drinking that same soda. Under the same conditions, the first signs of the disease also appeared in men. Studies have shown that the zombie virus develops and spreads faster in men than in women. Therefore, the news asked men to be careful, because in less than a few months, 60% of Chinese men turned to the virus, and there were fewer and fewer men every day. Due to the fact that men are more susceptible to infection, they have become on the verge of extinction, so the surviving tribes consist of women, and the few men left have become a very valuable resource. Men were taken in not only to help, but also to have fun with them. Also, the found and precious men could do heavy physical work and lift more weight than the girls themselves. Later, the men turned into slaves and laborers, slowly disappearing. They were ordered to work, or go to the bedroom with the girls. The poor men could not withstand such pressure and were about to go to work. For this they received punishment, because the girls beat them if they did not fulfill the requirements that they were told. Then Hao Lanjun realized that everything here seemed much worse than he had imagined. Because of the danger of infection, the small amount of food, even the women went wild. No matter how strong he was, it would be difficult to survive here alone, not to mention rescue of this world. And then it dawned on him, because now he had the opportunity to rebuild the society of this world. Since there were more women here, he was going to create an army of beauties. Suddenly, a loud noise was heard behind one of the cars. Using his X-ray vision abilities, the hero decided to see what was behind the car. As it turned out, a large number of zombies began to run out from there. They were probably attracted by the battle that had previously taken place here. This was not bad at all for the guy, because he just needed the money. In just a split second, all the zombies were deprived of their lives, because the heroes took out his blade and decapitated them. Meanwhile, zombies were approaching the lady, who came from the other side, and they were getting closer every second. The girls began to cry out of excitement and wanted to hide somewhere so as not to fall into the clutches of the zombie. The dead wanted flesh, they really wanted to eat, and began to reach out to the girls. It turned out that the sisters were not such sisters after all, if one girl became infected, then the other did not want to participate in it. Chu-Chu Sonomi began to break free from the handcuffs that she was chained to Hong Ying. The stunned girl still managed to do it, and she left her friend in a room where there was a huge number of zombies that surrounded her. Chu-Chu ran out of the room and turned to the guy and said that she would take revenge. Smiling, the hero only said that she could contact him at any time. Suddenly, another dead man attacked behind him, whom the hero was easily able to behead, thereby saving his life. The zombies continued to advance, despite the fact that their brothers had already died. The guy was incredibly happy that he would collect a huge amount of money by killing so many zombies. With every second, the amount of money in the account increased, and he felt a pleasant sensation from this. All this time he was being watched by a girl who did not understand what was happening. After all, I didn't know why this guy was so happy. The girls didn't seduce him, but he's very happy killing zombies. And then she decided that he really doesn't like girls. And terrible and vile zombies that eat everything in their path. The zombies quickly continued their advance, and with every second they were approaching the guy. And he was waiting for this, in order to make an attempt on their lives and earn even more coins. Looking at his watch, the guy decided that he was done for the day, and he had precious stinking bags, he really didn't want to throw them away. But today he worked hard. If he continues to kill, he will attract even more zombies, and he doesn't think he can hold back that many. At the moment of attack by one of the approaching zombies, the guy decided to summon his blade, and then he easily beheaded another zombie, thereby destroying him and taking his life. Hao Lanjun was completely unshakable, and there was a feeling that he could not be destroyed. The lady again could not believe her eyes, watching such a battle. After all, the guy got incredibly tasty meatballs. Yeka Xiaoli's mouth immediately began to water, because she saw those same cans of meatballs. Meatballs are the cartridges of true qi, they are incredibly tasty, so the girl really wanted them. As it turned out, the hero knew that the girl was watching him, and shouted to her whether she liked the battle. After all, if he had died here, then she would never have gotten these canned goods. Meanwhile, the girl shouted for him to wait for her, because she was already coming down to him. Having descended from the Ferris wheel, Eki quickly began to drive towards the hero. Smoke from her wheel spread throughout the street because she was in a hurry and wanted to get to the canned food as quickly as possible. Using her high-speed motorcycle, she jumped several tens of meters up, and there were many zombies below her. Effectively and gracefully, she approached the guy and flew over a bunch of zombies that wanted to eat her. Having also landed spectacularly, the lady began to push aside the crowds of zombies in order to get to the long-awaited food. The zombies continued to approach, and the lady ordered the hero to jump on her motorcycle, because their lives were in danger. And also the guy needs to hold on tighter and hold the can, because if he drops it, then the girl was going to skin him. With a smile, the guy got on the motorcycle and asked the girl to accelerate. With the pedal to the metal, lady and her friend began their journey, and the rear wheel of the motorcycle began to grind heavily. It was clear that Yeki Xiaoli truly knew how to drive a motorcycle, and pushing aside a huge number of zombies, she continued on her way. At the same time, the guy asked Zombie not to distract him from such a wonderful evening with this beauty. Hearing this, the lady got embarrassed and called the guy a pervert because she didn't think she would spend the evening with him. Continuing to accelerate, she also asked the inexperienced passenger to hold on tight, because there was a risk that he would fall out. But it was impossible to hold on tighter, because the guy was already holding on with all his strength. He held on to everything he could get his hands on. The lady immediately noticed this, and hit him on the head several times, after which she said that she would never waste fuel on a man if he had no food. Continuing to be angry, the girl also continued on her way with the hero. Events continued late in the evening at Yeka Xiaoli's house. Together they sat numbly and talked right in the house, where they were safe. As it turns out, it's the girl's second base. When the epidemic broke out, the area immediately became empty of rich people, so she chose this estate and equipped it for herself. Paying attention to the motorcycle, the hero decided to find out, since there are so few resources in this world, where the girl was able to get fuel. In fact, it was a gift from my father before the outbreak. Yeki planned to ride it to the center of the Hua state and find her parents, but due to the fact that there were too many zombies at the northern gate of Chuanzhou, she was unable to get out. I had to save the fuel while she was here, and also collect it in the process, if possible. Still, she had hoped that one day she would be able to get out of here, but unfortunately she did not know whether her parents were alive. Realizing the girl's plight, the guy realized that she was really worth helping. And then he held out an apple, after which he asked for something to eat, because only a full stomach will give you strength. Listening to the good-natured guy, the girl immediately grabbed the apple that was in his hand. It was truly incredibly delicious. It turned out that the girl really hadn't eaten apples for a long time. The last time she tried them was 2 years ago. She found one in a frozen food warehouse, but it was rotten. Having thought about what he should do next, the guy realized with admiration that it was worth learning about everything in this world in more detail. Hao Lanjun wanted to clarify with the beauty why she was following him. After all, he thought that the lady had fallen for him. But that was completely wrong, and she didn't need him because she was worried about the food he had. Because if he died, she would not be able to get it from the corpse. And she also wanted to know who the guy was, and where he got so much food from and how he got it. Although they met for the second time, the hero still did not know what kind of person she was, so he did not want to reveal his secrets. This answer outraged the girl, and she reproached the scoundrel, because she had previously said her name. Before the apocalypse, she was a member of the national fencing team and took prizes more than once, and is also fluent in edged weapons, plus these 2 years benefited her, because she had a lot of practice. She also added that of course she can't compare with such a weirdo like Hao, because he is really very strong. This information really amazed the guy, because he never expected that this girl would be a member of the national fencing team. Now it was clear where she got such strength from. She was certainly not a weakling, since she survived the zombie apocalypse. Then it dawned on the hero, after all, he had previously had a very good idea, because the guy wanted to create his own society, but unfortunately there were few men, but if he has such an intelligent and strong girl on his side, then with such a team not a single male army can defeat them. Deciding that this was a really good idea, the hero wanted to create his own female apocalypse squad. Blushing a little, he also had other thoughts about what he could do with the girls in his squad. The lady clearly did not like such thoughts, and she immediately realized that something was wrong here and asked him to tell him. Hearing such a request, the guy immediately thought that he could not tell her that he had been transported from another world. Therefore, he introduced himself as Hao Lanjin, a wushu master. As for the food, it was in his pants, and the girl can look for it herself. This answer again did not satisfy the girl, and she threw the first thing that came to her hand at the hero with all her might. With a bruise on his cheek, the guy asked her to get down to business and asked if Yeki Xiaoli would like to make an agreement with him. Not expecting such a question, the lady immediately asked what kind of agreement it was. The guy needed to hunt zombies, and she, as he understood, knew this territory very well. And then he decided to ask the girl to become his guide. This struck her again, because she considered the guy a pervert, because he wanted to hunt zombies. But as soon as the hero said that if she agreed, he would pay her with her favorite food, then Yeki Xiaoli immediately agreed without hesitation. She was conflicted in her thoughts, because the guy couldn't be told that he was bad, but she still didn't understand why he would kill zombies. But if you compare, it's very profitable, and she won't die of hunger either. And then they decided to make an agreement, and the girl extended her hand. This really made the hero happy, because he wanted such a good-natured lady to help him. Extending their hand, they crossed their fists as a sign of agreement. At the same time, the guy realized that this was the first member of the female apocalypse squad. Yeki Xiaoli also mentioned that when the girls from the Black Lily gang seduced him, she thought that he would fall for their tricks, but fortunately the guy turned out to be a gentleman. He naturally could not fall for it, because he has a great understanding of people and certainly not will fall for such a cheap trap. At that moment, he wanted to say that there was more than one woman in this world. Suddenly, the door slowly began to open. Hearing this, the hero immediately turned his head to see what was happening behind it. What he saw really made him happy and shocked him. It was another girl who asked her sister if she was back. Seeing that there was a stranger in the room, the unfamiliar girl immediately covered herself with the shirt she was wearing. But while the guy was spying, he received several more blows to the head and now he had even more bumps. Eki was indignant and decided to help her little sister change clothes, and ordered the guy not to dare peek, because if she saw him doing this, she would beat him up. The door to my sister's room slammed shut, and the guy watched her intently. At the same time, thinking that these girls were really mocking him, because his little sister came in on her own, and even if he wanted to, he couldn't help but pay attention to her. Turning his head, the guy saw another very interesting thing. In the room, namely in the closet, there were a lot of interesting and different jewelry. The former owner of this mansion was really rich when the apocalypse began. He fled in a hurry, and even forgot about all the valuables. Having picked up one golden object, it immediately began to evaporate right in his hand. As it turned out, personal items can be exchanged for 10,000 coins, no matter what it is. If it is made of gold, then one touch is enough and the balance will be replenished. Having heard about this opportunity to earn money, the guy was truly glad and wanted to look for even more gold, because very soon he would be able to return to his world for a while. Then he began to look around the entire room in search of the former owner's gold. Examining every corner of the apartment, the guy wanted to find all the gold that was hidden. Suddenly, the door behind him opened and his little sister came out. This is Yechi Xiaoli, who came out with her little sister and wanted to know what Hao was doing in this room. Realizing that what he was doing was wrong, the hero began to make excuses and said that he saw the dirt and decided to clean up. But this all happened at night. The girl could not believe it. All this happened because the hero is a real gentleman, and with him they will live happily ever after, he guaranteed it. The sisters were really shocked by what was happening. As it turned out, the little sister's name was Yeki Xiaomei. She was Yeki Xiaoli's twin sister. She apologized for what happened, because they rarely had guests, so she didn't even expect to see anyone. Overcoming awkwardness, the hero also said that it was nothing to worry about. At the same time, Yeki Xiaoli didn't understand why little sister was apologizing, because it was he who should ask for forgiveness, but Yeki Xiaomei believed that the hero was an important guest because he shared food. This was indeed true, and Xiaoli began to daydream about the goodies that the guy had in his pants. This time they forgave him, but next time it will be bad for him. For the hero, this couple was more like a demon and an angel, because they have very different characters. The little sister decided to find out the hero's name, and how exactly they met her sister. And then the guy wanted to tell her that they met in the shower. The lady clearly didn't like this, and she immediately decided to shut the sluggish guy's mouth. And his little sister said that she met him when she saved him from the Black Lily gang. That's how they met, just like that. The stunned girl knew that it was impossible for her little sister to find out that this pervert was spying on her in the shower. Yeki Xiaomei still asked about the shower, because she heard the guy start talking about it. Fearing the girl's reaction, the couple said that she only heard it. After all, if a guy hurts her sister, she won't just let him live. Realizing this, Hao Lanren immediately realized that although Yeki Xiaoli looks like a gentle angel, apparently everything is not so simple if she finds out the truth. Suddenly, the twin suddenly began to cough. Her sister immediately asked her how she was feeling. Having examined the girl, the hero immediately concluded that she had bandages on her body, pale skin color, cough and chest pain. It would be necessary to find out what was wrong with Xiaomei. Using his X-ray vision, the hero decided to find out what was really going on here. It turned out that the girl was heavily infected. The world of the apocalypse is very polluted. There are bacteria and viruses all around. One scratch is enough for a person to die from the disease. Then the guy decided to ask how Xiaomei received these wounds. This all happened because of the girls from the Black Lily gang. A couple of weeks ago, he and his sister were looking for food in a cold storage warehouse. They were lucky, and they found a lot of food, but their happiness unfortunately did not last long. After all, several more people entered the cold storage facility. A gang of black lilies came to them. The girls were well armed, and they outnumbered them. All they knew was to take food from other survivors. When they first found such a large supply of food, they didn't want to give it away so easily. And so began their struggle with the Black Lily gang. Unfortunately, there were some casualties, and the girls received several injuries. Although they fought a worthy battle, fighting off a large number of opponents, the brave ladies fought alongside the outnumbered girls from the Black Lily gang. The sister is a very accurate shooter. She hit the bullseye for hundreds of meters. She are a really great team, and they defeated the enemies very quickly. They even began to beg for mercy so that the sisters would let them go. As soon as the girls decided to spare them, something terrible happened. One of the girls who survived decided to carry out an attack, and she threw away her blade, which she still had. Unfortunately, that same blade was able to hit its target, and one of the sisters was severely injured. As a result, it was the goat who attacked them from behind, and the sister who protected Yeki Xiaoli from the dagger. The sister was seriously injured, and only the girl wanted revenge, but their battle attracted many zombies, and they immediately began to run away from there in order to survive. Although they escaped, the sisters were too deep early and the infection began. In search of penicillin, Xiaoli rummaged through all the shelves of pharmacies, because it was necessary to stop the infection. He was never found, which only made his sister worse and weaker. Every day she couldn't sleep, and maybe soon she wouldn't be able to hold on anymore. Starting to cry, Xiaoli begged how, after all, he had a way to get a large amount of food, and she wanted to ask him to get the medicine. Meanwhile, the guy was thinking that Xiaoli is a strong girl, and with Xiaomei's shooting skills, his army will become even stronger. The Longjin women's squad has been replenished with another fighter, and now he is obliged to save a member of his squad. But the guy also didn't yet know how to get the medicine, and thought that in his world he could find what he needed, but he didn't have enough gold. Still, the guy had one brilliant idea, and he asked his sisters to find him as much gold as possible. At the same time, the girls did not understand why he needed gold, because it was not necessary and a trinket in this world. Standing his ground, the hero continued to say that he needed gold, and as soon as they found it, the hero would immediately find a cure, and why he needed it should not bother them, they should believe him and collect the gold. If they help his little sister, he will immediately find a cure and bring food that does not exist in this world. Hearing that there would be food that did not exist in this world, Yeqi Xiaoli was willing to do anything to get this food. Yeqi Xiaomei, meanwhile, thought that this guy was ready to share even food, and if he were against them, he would have attacked long ago, and she didn't think that he was a bad person, and in the world of the apocalypse, everyone has their own secrets. If he will help them survive, then there is no point in learning this secret. The kind sisters agreed and were ready for the conditions that the savior offered them. Xiaomei knew that there was a casino in the west of the city. This was the first casino in Chuanzhou. Usually they used gold instead of chips, so she was sure that it had the largest reserve of gold today. Also in this casino there was a huge nest of undead that lived there. Hearing this, the guy immediately realized that the nest of the dead was great, because he could kill all the zombies in this nest and would definitely get home very soon. Having asked the girls not to be afraid, the hero announced that they would go there, and he would deal with the dead himself. Soon after this, the hero began to take something out of his pocket. This was the food that he was going to treat the girls to, so that they would eat and relax for one evening, and in the morning they would go to the casino. After some thought, the girls thought about the answer. But seeing so much food, the sisters easily agreed. The dark night was visible behind the boarded-up windows. The sick sister was tormented by fever, and in her sleep she sweated heavily. It was as if something was disturbing her, and her sleep was extremely restless. Meanwhile, the heroes stood on the balcony and thought. He looked into the distance and thought that he did not know what exactly happened to his company. Well, I also understood that it was worth going back and immediately finding out all the details about what kind of freak Ji Ro used to kill him. Watching the guy closely, Yeqi Xiaoli immediately saw that he was busy with something. The girl was looking for a cure for her sister all this time and came across a bunch of girls from the Black Lily, because of which, she had to wash herself off the dirt so as not to attract zombies. It was really good that the hero didn't end up there. Even though he broke into her bath while she was not dressed, Yeqi Xiaoli still felt safe with him. Suddenly, strange sounds began to be heard near the house. The lady and the guy immediately felt that something was wrong here. Realizing the need to look around, the hero immediately used his ability. Some silhouettes could be seen next to them, gradually approaching. It turned out that it was a group of Black Lily girls who were armed and wanted to attack. Seeing zombie, the head of the gang immediately ordered all the other girls to stop. Using their machine guns, they were easily able to neutralize the zombie that was nearby. The head did this using a pistol with a silencer, so as not to attract other zombies and not create unnecessary noise. After which she indicated that the girls should go in 2 columns. One squad should head to the left of the house, and the other to the right side, in order to completely surround the house. Meanwhile, Hao Lanjun didn't understand why a whole gang from the Black Lily squad came, as if to take revenge on him. Seeing something was wrong, Xiaoli immediately began to wake up her sister. The puzzled girl immediately heard her scream and began to prepare her weapon. They were about to leave with Hao Lanjun at that moment. There were an incredibly huge number of girls in this gang, and they were also armed to the teeth. The hero really realized that it was a good decision to run away from there. But the hero also understood that Yeqi Xiaoli and her wounded sister would not survive without him. Then he remembered that he had collected a lot of money and could buy something in the system store. After this thought came to mind, the guy immediately began to teleport. And again he found himself in the world of the system, where he was already met by the goddess of the system. The alarmed guy said that, as far as he understood, 10 million are needed to improve the magic eye, and he wanted to know if there was enough money in his account for this. The owner's current balance was 31,010,000 coins, and he could improve the magic eye. Exclaiming joyfully, the hero ordered the goddess to immediately improve this skill. The magic eye has been successfully upgraded and has now become the martial spirit eye. The eyes immediately began to change, and the guy immediately felt it. Their eye color changed to blue, and now they were cross-shaped. The goddess congratulated her master. The improvement of the magical eye was carried out successfully, and the abilities of the eye of martial spirit were transferred to his memory. The power of the eye of martial spirit immediately affected the hero's body, and he felt how much stronger he had become. The system had the best offers for the owner. 10 million coins were spent on improving the magic eye, and the current balance was 21,010,000 coins. The next level of the magic eye is the Eye of Scarlet Flame, which requires 20 million coins to upgrade, and the goddess wanted to know if the owner wanted to continue. For the guy, it was still too expensive, and he thought that the system was mocking him. If he improved, he would never get back home, and he was going to postpone this matter until later. Thanking the goddess, the hero replied that someday later he would improve the ability further. With the improvement of the magical eye, a new skill was opened, which is called the Miraculous Eye Lottery. A huge lottery immediately appeared in front of him, in which the hero could receive any of the rewards. A wonderful lottery of the eye, a skill that allows you to receive a random reward for 2 million coins, and the hero will also be able to receive equipment, skills or weapons. Among the rewards there is a 7-star pain point, an antivirus against zombie poison, and a Ganja God sword. Such a huge number of good awards truly made the guy happy, and then, he decided to play the lottery, thereby spending 2 million. The lottery mechanism immediately began to move after spending the funds. The wheel of fortune began to spin, and some reward was about to appear. And then, after a moment, the wheel stopped. As it turned out, the hero received a very insignificant reward. For 2 million coins he received a roll of napkins, and thought it was a scam. Then the guy decided to play again and spent 2 million. The roulette began to spin, and the champion expected his winnings. As a reward, the guy received some kind of bottle. I don't understand what he's holding in his hands. The unfortunate hero was amazed because he didn't know why he needed all this. Then he decided not to believe that such bad rewards would continue to come across, and decided to try again. The roulette wheel began to spin again, and the heroes expected better rewards. Suddenly, the guy again received a useless award in the form of a bikini. Although the model was not bad, it was clearly of no use to him. And then the guy had an idea. He began to laugh wickedly, and was excited about what was about to happen. Meanwhile, the little sisters knocked on Hao Lanjin's room and shouted at him to come out, because there was a gang of black lilies outside the window. Then the other sister also decided to try knocking. She gathered all her strength and will into one blow, after which, she swung with all her might in order to strike straight at the door. Suddenly, the door swung open and the hero began to come out. Due to the fact that the girl could not maintain her balance, she immediately began to fall. And literally a second later she was right on top of the hero, and clearly felt awkward. With a smile, the main character asked why Yechi Xiaoli sat on him. The lady immediately started getting off of him because she thought he was even more of a pervert now. Another sister couldn't understand what they were doing here, because there was a gang of black lilies outside. There were too many of them, a large squad, and she was sure that their leader Lin Mulian had also come. She was holding a pistol with a silencer, so it would be difficult to fight. Rising to her feet, Xiaoli immediately said that her wounds were caused by this gang, and today they must take revenge on these girls. Then the hero said that they shouldn't interfere, because of course they will take revenge on them, and there is a very effective way. Stunned by what they heard, the ladies immediately began to wonder what exactly the method was. Unexpectedly, the hero showed a bikini, and said that this method would be stunning. Having hit the hero with an uppercut, the little sister began to shout that they would never wear such a shameful rag. Using the Spartan grip, she began to choke the impudent guy, and he, in turn, wanted to say something. Meanwhile, the enemies were getting closer every second. They were already right at the entrance to the house. One of the opponents noticed that they had already arrived and told the head about it. Chu Sonomi was also on the team, who shouted that the guy who killed Hong Ying was here, and those twins too. This was really great for them, because all the enemies had gathered in one place, and now they would be able to escape anywhere. The Black Lily squad slowly approached the entrance and tried to sneak into it secretly. The enemies discovered that the door to the house was open. The door slowly opened and diffused light began to pour in. The impudent girls began to enter the house and found some traces. The commander ordered to stand, because some steps were heard. The girls could literally hear that their enemies were nearby and they were ahead. This was great news for them because they were ready to fight. Having taken out all their weapons, the squad was going to secretly attack Hao Lanjin and the sisters. Stealthily they began their attack, and with all speed they headed to the place where steps were heard. What they saw really shocked them, because they did not expect what would be in this house. Before their eyes was a zombie, who was dressed in a bikini and dancing. Not expecting this, they only saw the zombies dancing, and the enemies were absent from this room. Suddenly, the zombie girl saw people approaching her. Then she began her attack, taking even more zombies that were behind her. They all stood in the room, ready to attack living people. Chuchu Sonomi and the head of the clan were shocked by what they saw, and did not understand where all these zombies came from. Had they all gathered because of this zombies dance? Their excitement knew no bounds, because a huge number of zombies stood in the room and were about to attack. Soon, all the zombies attacked, because they were tired of waiting. The head ordered all the girls to run because they were ambushed. Then she took out her machine gun and prepared to fight back. Sparing no ammo, the girl fired from a Kalashnikov assault rifle in order to repel the dirty zombies. Another girl went and told the main one that things were bad with them, because there were also zombies outside, and they were all surrounded. Many zombies simultaneously began to attack the lady who had just entered the door of the apartment. In just a few seconds she was immediately eaten, and she lost her life. Behind the girls who were about to run away were also zombies who were already preparing to attack. 2 more girls were bitten at the same time, but they could not do anything about it. Chuchu Sonomi thought in despair that she couldn't just die. But the zombies who surrounded her didn't think so. The girl continued to cry and shouted that she did not want to die. Behind her, the head tried to fight back, and killed a huge number of zombies with a machine gun, but the bullets were not endless and soon they should end. A huge number of zombies were hit with targeted shots, but some were not so stupid, and they had the ability to dodge bullets. The girl who was standing in a bikini was able to dodge all the pulses that should have gone straight to her head. Without waiting for the head, Chuchu took the gun from her and wanted to run to save herself. Because the early girl protected her head from all the zombies, and she still hasn't really killed anyone. But the head also understood that if it weren't for her sister, she and her sisters wouldn't have even bent a finger here, because they didn't want to participate in this. That same girl in a bikini continued to watch everything that was happening, and seemed to have an increased level of intelligence compared to other zombies. As it turned out, it was Hao Lanjin in disguise who saw the true nature of the girls. It was disgusting for him, and today they had to go to hell. Now is the time to act, even though it was difficult to get these fuel cans. Meanwhile, the girls continued to fight and argue among themselves. Lady Zombie began to carry the canister directly to the girls, who could not share the machine gun among themselves. Stunned, Chuchu Sonomi screamed at the zombies and ordered them not to come closer. The zombie, in turn, steadily moved on, and did not listen to the frightened lady at all. Frightened even more, the girl began to shoot and was shaking. Only the head saw what was really hiding behind the girl in a bikini. Several bullets hit Lady directly, but she still continued to move there. And in her hands she had fuel, which was also hit by several bullets. It was truly a deadly battle, and for both of them. There was a devastating explosion and the flames scattered throughout the room. Soon all the flames dissipated outwards and surrounded the huge house. It turned out that in fact, Hao Lanjin had been controlling the zombie, who was wearing a bikini, all this time, and thus said goodbye to his opponents. They began to run away, because they had completed their mission and protected themselves from the arrogant attacking girls. The guy's notification also worked, and the goddess of the system congratulated him on receiving 6 million coins. This meant that for controlling zombies and killing other zombies it was also possible to get gold, which is really nice. Seeing that the guy was planning something, Chuchu Sonomi asked him to stop thinking. All because his little sister was in his arms and was leaning right into him, so the girl thought that he was up to something wrong. Now was really not the time to quarrel. Besides, Lanjin saved them from the attack of the Black Lily's gang, Xiaomei said. The guy also added that her sister is much smarter than someone else, and the girl can only be angry. This answer angered the girl even more, because she could not help but be angry, because so much fuel was wasted, and her motorcycle was also damaged. Another sister also wondered why Hao Lanjin suddenly made another zombie dance. And then the guy decided to tell me that in fact everything is very simple. If you use a special technique of hitting the chi points, the girl will also start dancing without stopping, and he suggested that she try it. The sisters clearly didn't like this request, and they got angry with him now together. Immediately after this, a fight began. The completely beaten hero thought that if he said that he could control the zombies, they still wouldn't believe him. The events took place 20 minutes ago. Then the hero decided to improve the magic eye, and this ability turned into the Eye of Fighting Spirit. The Eye of Martial Spirit has been achieved, the Eye of Martial Spirit's ability is to transfer the host's memories and perceptions into the zombie. At that moment the guy decided to ask the goddess of the system how it works. The Eye of Morale activates once every 2 hours, and you can only take control of one zombie at a time. If a zombie is under control, then you can see everything that is in its field of vision. This skill was really very strong, because the guy can control zombies, and also see everything that is in front of his eyes. Just use this skill correctly, and the benefits from it will be enormous. Events continued to occur near the estate in the local neighborhood. The guy was sitting on the roof of the building, mysteriously watching something. And then he saw something, after which he joyfully exclaimed that this was the one he needed. And he used his skill to summon that same zombie. The skill worked with lightning speed, although there were a large number of zombies around. One of the zombie girls turned her head as if she was under someone's control. Gradually, the hero continued to use his ability, and the zombie's DNA began to change. The color of the dead thing's eyes also changed, and it became blue. The joyful guy realized that he was now in the body of a zombie, but at the same time, he understood that their performance would begin in the other direction. At that moment, he decided to use the girl's zombie charm to summon other zombies. All the men surrounding the zombie immediately took the bait and reacted instantly. They literally fell in love with the zombie girl and were ready to follow her. Each of the zombie men that saw the zombie girl under the control of Hao Longjun went after her. Even though they were all dead men, men remain men. This is truly a stunning plan. The hero was shocked by himself. Returning to the present time, the guy only laughed evilly and could not say anything. The little sisters just watched the guy laugh disgustingly and thought that he was thinking about something vulgar. But this was not entirely true, because at that moment the hero was only thinking about the plan that he managed to accomplish. And he objected, because he was only glad how they dealt with the Black Lily gang, but his sister did not believe him. Confused, Xiaomei asked them not to swear, because if they were even louder, they would gather all the zombies in the area, and it was necessary to move on quickly. Soon they were close to the casino, and could get there on foot before dawn. They decided to hurry in order to get there as quickly as possible. Suddenly, one of the zombies looked out from the corner because he heard some noise. Behind him there was already a hunter who took out his blade. With a deft movement of his hand, the hunter was able to take the life of the zombie, and moved on. It turned out that after killing the zombie, coins also began to fall from him, which ended up in the account of the mysterious hunter. An unknown hunter received a notification from the system that he had earned 1 million gold coins. He also had the same skill as the hero himself. As it turned out, this was a hero who killed other dead people with the help of zombies, and received money. There were much less worries now, after acquiring such a skill. With the help of this ability, he managed to kill 3 zombies at once without his own participation. This ability was truly bombing. That's how they walked forward, 3 and 1 zombie, killing other undead and approaching the casino. But the casino itself had a colossal number of zombies that surrounded the entire building. The brave men, meanwhile, watched everything that was happening from the roof of one of the missions. The hero had a plan. He wanted to get through the entire horde of these zombies, and behind that door there should be a casino. The brave Yeki Xiaoli decided to distract this entire crowd of zombies so that her allies would run to the gate and get into the casino. Suddenly, her sister stopped her. Taking out her bow, she asked to be given this opportunity. The sharpshooting girl took aim and decided to take the opportunity to distract the zombies. There were too many zombies at the gate, and then she began to look for objects that could be used to distract them all. Fortunately, there were barrels of flammable material nearby that could be exploded. Using an optical sight, an accurate shot was necessary. An arrow from a modified bow was released and began to fly straight into those same barrels. She flew near one of the zombies, who was very nearby. The zombie almost caught this arrow, but fortunately it was almost at its target. With a well-aimed shot, the arrow hit a barrel of fuel, and it began to ignite. The colossal fire consumed everything in its path, and even the zombie who was standing very close. The noise from the explosion of several barrels of fuel attracted the attention of a large number of zombies. All of them immediately went to see what made such a loud sound. With the help of an optical sight, the girl saw all this. And the entrance to the casino was cleared with stunning success. Now there was no one at the gate, and they could set off on their way to get to the desired building. Smiling, the hero praised the girl for such a gorgeous shot. And her sister also praised her, but said that she was still in bad condition, and so she could hit the target from 1,000 meters. The casino truly amazed with its grandeur, because it was a gigantic building. It was the same casino, overflowing with gold. The hero saw golden bones from above, and he liked it. Little sisters came here before the apocalypse and played in this casino. Expecting a large amount of gold, the hero quickly prepared to enter this building. Suddenly, the asphalt began to crack under them, and they wanted to run away. Incredibly loud sounds came from some unknown source. Something started to come out, and it was probably a monster. A loud sound was heard throughout the area, which was very attention-grabbing. Experiencing severe anxiety, the girls worried about their lives. After all, in front of them they saw a giant monster that didn't even look exactly like a zombie. This unknown monster was amazing in its size, because it was gigantic. And also, this creature was furious. It screamed very loudly. His eyes were red and his mouth was huge, and there were several blisters on his face. From the scream, all the windows of the buildings began to break. It was so loud. The hero, with the help of himself, began to shield the girls from the glass that was flying in their direction. One of the sisters suggested that it could be a demon. Survivors said that demons are mutated zombies. Its destructive power frightened everyone, because this creature was equal to 100 zombies, and no one expected to meet it. Then boy did I realize that this demon is truly so strong. Having taken out a stone, he decided to climb under the car and carry out the idea. Throwing a stone, the guy decided to find out what that same demon would do with him. The noise from the breaking glass attracted the creature, which immediately followed the source of the noise. The giant began to approach the broken glass and find out what happened. It turned out that this was the hero's plan, and the monster was caught. The zombie under his control was already on the lantern and was ready to attack. With a swift and sharp movement, he began to fall down, and took with him a sharp spear. Continuing to fall, the hero hoped that the zombie under his control would be able to destroy this giant. The spear had to hit the demon's head. Suddenly, the giant was able to intercept the zombie who was about to strike. And with the help of his giant hand, he literally crushed the little zombie. Closely observing the unknown zombie, the demon did not understand how this was possible and why he was attacked. Then he decided to get that same zombie, and opened his mouth, after which he prepared to absorb it. With giant teeth, the demon began to chew the zombie as if it were his own food. He really liked this dinner, and probably wanted more. At the same time, having absorbed one of the dead, the giant began to think about something. How Lonren at the same time, he realized that he thought that this demon was simply strong and brought great destruction, but he also turned out to be very smart and fast. With the current level of the magical eye, the hero would not be able to defeat it and take control of it. Hearing this, the goddess of the system immediately came to the rescue. Gradually she began to teleport to the world of the apocalypse, and she appeared right in front of the hero, as if she wanted to help him. Ordinary people didn't see this, but the guy just looked around as if he saw someone in front of him. The goddess reassured him, because ordinary people really did not see her. The demon is a zombie that has absorbed 10,000 other dead people, so it becomes a high-level zombie until the owner is able to take control of it. But if the hero kills him, he can receive a huge bonus. The system decided to issue a temporary task such as how to destroy a high-level zombie demon in 3 days. The reward was to give 100 million gold coins, as well as a special reward. The guy liked this event incredibly much, and he was ready to fight to the last to get the desired reward. The alarmed girls at the same time wanted to bypass the zombies and go for the gold. The guy had completely different plans. They should find the gold anyway, but he was obliged to kill this demon. After all, if they go for the gold, the demon may escape. By killing him, they will not only get rid of a dangerous threat, but will also earn a lot of gold with a bonus reward. After this thought, the guy immediately had an idea. Raising one of the sisters, he announced that he had a plan and there was no need to be afraid. Also exclaiming for Yechi Xiaoli to follow him. First, they need to find a safe place to rest. Together, marked on the map, they will hide from the demon, and from another gate they will enter the casino. Using the back door, they were easily able to enter the casino building. This way they will avoid the horde of zombies and go up to the 5th floor of the casino. There they all found a rest room. It was far from the horde and quite safe. Walking along the corridor of the casino, the hero decided to explore one of the hotels and ask the girls to wait here, because he wanted to check if there were dead people in the room. Using his magical vision, he looked through the door. And then, finally, I decided to open it. The doors swung open, and a view of the room opened before the hero. There wasn't much that stood out to me, just an empty room and scattered things. But someone's silhouette was still visible through the curtain. The guy at that moment thought that there really should be someone in the room. Continuing to walk into the room, an unknown substance appeared under his foot, because of which he began to slide on the floor and almost fell. Having slipped to the bed, the hero decided to explore the situation further. Entering the room, he finally realized that his entire body was covered in wax. But he also discovered that he had something in his hand. The little sister also entered the room and exclaimed to him to be careful. Fortunately, everything was fine with the hero, he just found the doll, and was very happy about it. The girls really did not like such a sight, and they closely watched what would happen next. That same doll was lying on the bed and the guy continued to touch it. But then he got tired of it, instead of throwing her out of bed and sitting down together to rest. At the same time, he really thought there was a zombie in the room, but it turned out to be just a hat on a hanger. One of the sisters thought that the guy had specifically chosen this number for perverts. Well, it was pure chance, and he was just looking for a place to relax. The guy took out a lot of food from his inventory and put it in the hat, as if he had found it in the room. After which he began to leave and said that he first needed to prepare for the battle with the demon. Little sister heard this and was going to go with him and help. But the guy didn't need help, because he was going to do everything himself. And she needs to stay here and protect her sister, and he will deal with everything else. Yeki Xiaomei just asked her brother to be careful, and Xiaoli was going to eat his apple too. The door closed, and the guy immediately began to think. Now his plan gradually began to come to fruition. First, the heroes needed to find a safe. There is nothing difficult about it. But to deal with the demon, you need more money. And this place is really suitable for making as much money as possible. Suddenly, behind the hero, the door began to break, as if someone was knocking it down. And suddenly the door collapsed, because someone really knocked it down. It was a giant zombie that was about to attack the unsuspecting guy. This daring and strong zombie was truly best suited to earn even more money. The huge zombie began his attack, and, raising his fist, wanted to attack. The guy was not taken aback and used his ability, the Eye of Fighting Spirit. Because of this, the zombie stopped abruptly and did not continue to attack. After all, he was already under the control of the hero, and performed actions that were controlled by Hao Lanjun himself. At first the giant zombies didn't understand what was going on. His DNA began to gradually change, and his eye color changed to blue. From this moment on, the giant zombies were completely under the control of the main character. And with the help of such an enemy, the hero could easily keep as much money as possible, killing all the zombies on his way. This zombie was truly the #1 employee, and had already earned several tens of millions. And while this zombie was dealing with a crowd of other zombies, the hero was going to look for the safe with gold. First you need to start from the basement and then rise higher with each floor. Some time later, the guy was sweating and was really very tired. That's because he searched the entire building, but there was nothing in it. I even searched the main building, and now the middle floor, but there was nothing in it, as if the safe had been moved. Passing by the office, the guy noticed that it was really luxurious. It was probably the office of the casino owner. And that same safe with gold can be located right in it. The couple in the picture really looked in love. But with the help of his extraordinary abilities, the hero was able to determine that there was a mechanism behind the picture. And by literally pressing one button, you will be able to open the door. Indeed, as soon as he pressed the button, the door immediately opened in front of him. He was really lucky because this place had its own generator. And the gold must be hidden behind these doors. The room itself had an excellent defense system that separated the hero from the gold that he was going to get. In any case, such a barrier could not hold him back. Using his agility, he could easily get through the many lasers in his path. Literally dancing and performing acrobatics, he was getting closer to the safe doors with every second. Fortunately, all the obstacles were already behind him, and he was almost at his goal. Whistling his favorite melody, the guy wanted to understand what was inside. Using his magical ability, he looked through the door. As it turned out, the door was completely empty, and only one envelope was hidden behind such a protection system. Unfortunately, the hero walked around 52 floors, but did not find his gold. Gathering all his will into a fist, he decided that he was obliged to find out what exactly was inside, because such protection must be for something special. Using his superhuman strength, he hit the door's security mechanism directly. Having broken the door, he still managed to get straight into the vault. It was really just a simple envelope that was hidden behind such protection. On this envelope it was written that it must be opened when his wife was not around. Unfortunately, there was only a torn photograph where the casino owner was next to some girl. Hiding the photo was really a waste of time, but on the back of the paper there were some numbers and letters. Suddenly, the system sent a notification. She said that the zombie, whom the owner took control of, died, but he earned a lot of gold coins. The balance at the moment was 51 million gold coins. This zombie was really a good fellow, even though he failed to find gold, he could raise the level with the accumulated coins. Soon after this, the goddess of the system teleported the hero to her system. Thus, the magical eye was upgraded first to the eye of martial spirit, and then to the eye of scarlet flame, the cost of upgrading which was 20 million coins. As soon as the ability was improved, the hero was immediately enveloped in scarlet flames, which surrounded him and changed his DNA. After improving this ability, the power began to awaken with even greater intensity, and the guy felt several times stronger. His eye also changed, now it was scarlet, because this ability was called the Eye of Scarlet Flame. The improvement was successfully completed, and the guy now really became stronger. The system also congratulated him, he can now take control of 2 zombies, and there is also a new skill called the Eye of the Falcon. This news really made the hero happy, because he understood that he could now take control of 2 zombies at the same time. And I also decided to find out what this ability called the Eye of the Falcon is. The goddess of the system only said that he himself needed to learn this ability. After the improvement, he will also have access to a new ability of the system, called 10 revolutions. For 10 revolutions it is possible to win precious artifacts, and she suggested trying it. Having heard about the increased chance of receiving rewards, the hero immediately decided to try it. Unfortunately, after a few games, his balance went from 30 million to 11 million, and his inventory was now a bunch of junk. Each time the number of unnecessary items in his inventory increased. One of the items was a durian, and he also received pajamas. Unfortunately, this durian turned out to be empty, it was even impossible to eat. The playful system suggested that he look for something else, because perhaps he would get something interesting. It seems the guy has finally found something he can use. One of the finds was erythromycin ointment. Of course, it cannot cure Yeki Xiaomei completely, but at least it will stop the infection. From the pile of rubbish there was something else interesting. Taking with him a new gift, the hero set off. But at the exit from the vault, an unusual zombie was already waiting for him. This was a bad sign, he could figure out the zombies, but if he touched them, something bad might happen. The zombies were right at the entrance to the vault, and they weren't about to dodge the red lasers. Seeing their target, the vile dead decided to attack. They quickly and sharply went on the attack, because they wanted to eat the main character. One of the zombies immediately fell under the laser that was in the room that limited the entrance. As soon as I touched the laser, something began to crawl out of the wall. It turned out that it was a giant machine gun that was going to hit the target that was trying to get into the vault. All the zombies that tried to destroy the hero were shot by that same turret. All this happened in front of the zombies who had not yet made their attack. The guy really couldn't expect this, and he was a little shocked. At the same time, the zombies closely watched every action of the hero, and still wanted to attack him. They immediately went on the attack, rapidly approaching the lasers. After passing through several lasers, they again had to fall into a trap. More turrets came out of the wall and were about to destroy the zombies that were trying to get into the vault. Through such a huge number of shots, Hao Lanjun didn't even understand how he could get through and dodge through them. Some shots aimed straight at him, hitting his body. The bullet could have hit him directly in the head, but at the right moment Lanjun used his newfound ability. Thanks to her, he was easily able to dodge even a bullet that was flying at incredible speed. Many bullets were flying at him, which he also dodged, and it was not difficult for him. All the bullets around him suddenly became slow. This was the same power of the Eye of Scarlet Flame, namely the skill Eye of the Falcon. Thus, he can see the directions of objects and creatures. And all this happened in slow motion, or he has the ability to slow them down. If so, then he has the opportunity to avoid injury in such a difficult situation. Suddenly, he decided to summon a glass of wine. And together with him he continued to evade a huge number of bullets that were aimed specifically at him. Meanwhile, the zombies began to run away, because they were afraid to die under the yoke of so many cartridges. And the main character himself had no difficulty dodging shots, as if he were playing a game in this way. While the guy was dodging a colossal amount of pulses, the zombies caught them with their own bodies. For him, such situations were now boring and did not bring any pleasure. And he immediately realized that it was worth taking on another job. Having summoned several zombies, he decided to act. The summoned zombies were immediately sent to the turrets to be broken. The turrets that were aimed to fire suddenly exploded and could no longer fire. Someone began to emerge from the smoke that was present from the explosion. It was the hero himself, who incredibly liked what he had under control. Now there could be 2 zombies, and the eye of the falcon actually struck him. Now he can instantly destroy the demon. Now it's time to move on to the next stage of the plan. The zombies were still alive and were following the hero, but there was some kind of smoke around them. Events continued behind the casino. The guy was calmly walking in the backyard and singing his favorite melody. He was proud of himself because he earned a huge amount of money. Suddenly, Longjun noticed that it suddenly became dark. This shadow was created by a giant zombie demon who was right next to the unsuspecting guy. An evil demon was closely watching the guy and wanted to make his attack using colossal force. Meanwhile, they watched each other and absolutely nothing happened. The giant really appeared too early, and the hero did not expect such a quick fight with him, so he teleported the gifts to his inventory so as not to damage them. But still, he was glad that this demon came to him for a quick fight. The demonic creature was thirsty for blood and opened its mouth to attack. Using his incredible strength, this demon made an attack and crushed the fountain with just one touch. It seemed that he took the main character with him, but the guy stood as if nothing had happened and said that now it was his turn to attack. Determined to attack, he was confident in his abilities and wanted to win this fight. His plans were ruined when he heard a vehicle approaching the battlefield. Confused, the hero did not understand what was happening and what exactly he should do now. It was an unknown machine that was fully equipped to survive the apocalypse and kill as many zombies as possible. That same car drove straight towards Hao Longjun and stopped next to him. Her driver was the casino owner, who asked his friend to sit down, because fighting a demon is not so easy. This turn of events really shocked the guy, but he knew how best to act in this situation. The car headed in a different direction and passed the zombie demon. Grateful Hao Longjun thanked the casino owner, because he arrived right on time. But they should have accelerated, because the demon was already very close. Unexpectedly, he attacked again and slammed his giant foot onto the ground. Fortunately, this blow did not hit the car, and it continued on its way. Because of this, the arrogant and angry demon was furious. He began to pursue the car in order to finish off the fugitives. This blow was truly very close, but fortunately it was avoided. The hero decided to take control and got behind the wheel. The owner of the casino was amazed that such a young guy could drive a car. The self-confident Parnisha only asked the man to sit still, because he wanted to see what this machine was capable of. This behavior only caused anxiety in the elderly man, and he was worried about his expensive car. Together they moved very quickly, and the elderly casino owner began to scream furiously. Without reacting to this, the guy first turned on the music at full volume, after which he began to drive even faster. The speed was already more than 142 kilometers per hour, and they were not even going to relieve it. All this time, a giant demon was following them, and was going to destroy such a tiny machine. Continuing to move, the giant did not give up and followed the little people who had enraged him. Destroying everything in its path, the zombie continued to pursue its target and wanted to destroy it in order to eat it. The brave guy climbed out of the car window to ask the little demon if he was having fun. This angered the giant even more, and he looked at his food with contempt. And with greater speed he began to try to catch up with the target. Everything in his path was destroyed. Each of the buildings that he somehow touched with his gigantic body began to collapse. Using all his strength, the giant increased his speed and rapidly approached the desired car. Approaching as close as possible, the demon was already reaching out with his hands to grab the car. An elderly man watched everything that was happening from the car window and asked the guy to move as quickly as possible. Smiling, the hero only warned that one should bend down, because there is a huge height limit ahead, and one must be extremely careful. Indeed, in front of them there was an underground entrance, into which they began to drive, and the giant continued to run after them. The demon's giant hand almost managed to grab the tiny car, but they were able to get ahead. Sighing with relief, the guys realized that they were finally able to deal with the demon. The alarmed man heard in response that there was no need to rush, and that's not all. An unknown part of the demon began to approach the car and pulled ahead. At that same second, the hero used his acquired ability to slow down time. The unknown part of the giant demon continued its movement along the underground passage, and the hero easily evaded it with the help of his ability. This ability incredibly helped the guy get ahead, because he could control every movement of the monster's tentacles. Meanwhile, with horror, the man watched what was happening around him and did not understand how this was even possible. Having rushed forward, the guys were far ahead, and left the demon behind. It seemed that demon was under the rubble and could no longer move. But in fact, it was only a small part of him that he controlled and attacked. The insidious demon was still alive, but still did not understand how such a weak target could elude him. The events continued some time later, and it was already getting dark, because it was evening. Stopping near residential buildings, the hero wanted to ask the man how he could live in such a place, around the demon land. But in fact, it's safer with him, only there are fewer zombies next to him, and the main thing is to hide only from the demon. The friendly casino owner introduced himself. His name was Guadefang, and he wanted to clarify the name of his savior. After shaking hands, they introduced themselves and were glad to meet each other. Without wishing any harm, the man said that his house was located not far from above, and invited his guest inside. Together they began to head indoors to go to the apartment. The mysterious man wanted to know if the guy had a girlfriend, how old he was, and where he lived. In trying to find the keys, the man could not do this when he was rummaging through his things, as if he had lost his house keys somewhere. Suddenly, someone grabbed someone's hand. It was the hand of an unknown girl who seemed to be about to attack. She looked terrible and shabby, and looked more like a zombie than a girl. Even Hao Lanjin himself did not expect such a turn of events, because that same girl called the man dear. The alarmed elderly man asked to let this woman go, because she is his wife. As it turned out, his wife began to have mental problems from the very beginning of the apocalypse. Now she and his 3 daughters live here together. Opening the door, they went inside and found 3 incredibly beautiful daughters. They were first greeted by a daughter named Hui Mei, who was expecting to see her dad outside the door. But she saw the stranger, and it was as if she wasn't even surprised by him. The caring father told his daughter that this was his new friend, and he should pour some water and bring some food. This family environment really made the guy a little depressing, but he wanted to be polite. The man began to talk about how he was wandering on the street in search of food and came across Hao Lanjin, who was being chased by a demon. Initially, he planned to save the guy, but in the end, the guy himself saved him. The sisters were amazed that this guy was their dad's savior. Little sister named Xue Qin was only happy to have the company of such a brave man. Another sitting sister named Yufan was also glad that such a brave guy was next to her. For some reason, this whole situation infuriated the hero very much. The man noticed what was happening outside the window and said that it was already getting dark, and it was very dangerous on the street at night. Because of this, the good-natured Guadefeng said that the guest could stay at their house for the night. The polite guy in turn replied that he was grateful for the dinner, but he should return, because he did not want to bother them. The caring sisters did not want to let him go, because he was a savior, and asked him to eat even more food. At the same time, the guy realized that he really needed it. After all, he hadn't eaten for a couple of days, and he should eat more. The hero was very grateful to the whole family for such a service. The man personally observed everything that was happening, and was glad that he was able to treat his guest. Taking advantage of such hospitality, Hao Lanjin ate very much. This amazed absolutely everyone. No one could have expected this guy to eat so much. Guadefeng became a little worried and asked if his guest was happy. As he knows, there are very few men in their world, and his girls are no longer small. If the hero remains, then in addition to food, his daughters will also be his. This offer was indeed very tempting, and it was difficult to refuse. The little sisters literally begged their brother to stay. They were even going to give him a massage that would definitely leave him satisfied. Their father didn't even eat this food himself, but he apparently liked the guy very much. Reflecting on such a proposal, the hero thought, after all, he had the opportunity to get 3 beauties and a lot of food in addition. This is an excellent offer. The father was also not against it, he just wanted him to have an heir. It was difficult to refuse, but the guy wanted to do his best to do it politely. Unfortunately, he did not succeed, and he said that their food from this world is absolutely tasteless, and 3 wives to boot, he cannot handle all of them, telling this to the man, addressing him as a fat man. Initially, Guo Defeng took this as a joke, because he believed that no man would refuse such an offer. The daughters were also indignant, and wanted to know what they were suspected of, and whether he really didn't want to become their family. The strange man continued to say that if a guest wants to take 3 daughters into the bedroom together, then they are now family. All this time, the hero understood that this fat guy had chosen him as his target. What happened earlier was already suspicious, because the man decided to save the stranger from the demon. He also hides in the shadows of this monster. Such a creature would not allow anyone to live in safety next to him. And when the hero entered the room, one of the daughters had bruises. This family turned out to be not so harmonious, so we should see what awaits Hao Lanjin next, and he used his ability. Using his X-ray, the guy discovered terrible things. Immediately he realized that this fat guy is a pervert, and all his daughters and wife are lies. In other rooms there were many different torture objects, and it was possible that Guo Defeng was keeping the girls at bay and under his control. Looking around further, the hero still had an idea. He made the assumption that this man was a demon. Meanwhile, continuing to smile, Guo Defeng asked the hero where he was looking. After all, he wanted to know what the guy was up to and what he would do. At that moment, Hao Lanjin decided to get up from his chair and said that the conditions were truly excellent. But he would like to continue living alone. The gloating fat guy looked with contempt at the hero, and he, in turn, thanked him and said goodbye. The hero still managed to leave the apartment, and the daughters, along with their so-called father, watched the guy from the balcony. One of the daughters, as if fearing something, asked the man if their guest understood something. Because of such a question, Guo Defeng hit the girl in the face with all his might. Then he called her a useless creature when she fell to the floor from a strong blow. He called all the girls around him a disappointment because they couldn't keep the guy. The man continued to look at his so-called daughters with contempt and was planning something. Hui Mei was on her knees and begged her father to give her another chance. She even agreed for the man to strangle her, and she was ready to do anything to save her. But all this did not suit Guo Defeng, and he ordered the demon to eat the girl. The giant demon instantly approached and grabbed the innocent lady. Eager to eat her, he had already thrown the defenseless lady into his mouth. After which, he closed it and clamped his teeth so that she could not get out. In horror, the defenseless girls continued to watch what was happening. At the same time, the man was indignant because he had lost a huge amount of food due to some freak, and ordered the girls who were with him to be brought. After all, he did not expect such behavior from this freak. And since he didn't want it in a good way, then it will be in a bad way. Such an impudent person will not be able to escape anywhere else, because he is already on the hook. And those 2 girls who were with the hero will now belong to Guo Defeng. The events continued in a dark alley in the city, where the hero walked, leaving after the situation that happened to him. Behind him, it was as if someone was watching where exactly the guy was going. And this was indeed the very part of the demon that had the ability to move over a long distance. The tentacle was conducting surveillance to track where exactly the impudent man was heading to grab those same 2 girls. Hao Lanjin felt that someone was watching him, and understood that it was the same demon. That's why he increased his pace in order to escape as quickly as possible. The demon continued his surveillance to bring the target home. Suddenly, the guy disappeared from the demon's field of vision. The demon looked around in different directions, but did not understand where exactly the impudent man had gone. While examining various buildings, the guy was not found. In one of the buildings, only dancing zombies could be seen, as if seducing a demon. The demon clearly didn't like this and was confused. Due to the fact that what was happening made him very angry, he destroyed those dancing zombies. Guo Defeng continued to blame the demons for his failures and called him an idiot. He was angry because he believed that the demon was to blame for them missing their goal. And then he decided that he would have to resort to a secret technique. The evil scoundrel ordered the giant demon to move on. Obeying the fat man, the giant demon set off to search for his targets. Meanwhile, the hero watched everything that was happening and wondered what he should do next. Suddenly, an unknown piece of paper fell into his hands. It turned out that it was the same photograph that he had previously found in the safe. At that moment, it dawned on the hero, because he got this photograph for a reason. Having hidden that very photograph, he decided that he needed to act. And he headed to the casino where the events took place earlier. There, Yechi Xiaoli had already discovered that the demon was under the control of some old man. Hao Lanjin, who had already arrived to the girls, decided to tell her all this. They were surprised by what they heard, but knew that they had to be quiet so as not to be noticed. The little sisters wanted to find out if someone was following the hero, because it seemed to them that that same demon would not just let them go. The hero knew that surveillance was underway, and was about to leave, and also notified that he was able to find a cure. Medicines were available, such as erythromycin, hydrogen peroxide and alcohol, and also an anti-infective medicine. But there was not only medicine, but another baby. And then he held out a huge box, behind which was hidden something interesting. It was a large caliber sniper rifle. Little sister was amazed by this and wanted to ask her brother where he got it from. And then he called them to come closer. After all, the hero decided to tell about his secret, and asked not to dare tell anyone about it. With delight, the sisters began to listen to where exactly the hero got everything. Suddenly, the guy stood up abruptly and said that he took it all out of his pants, and if they don't believe it, they can check it themselves. Not only did he have artifacts and equipment there, but he also had a jet and spinning item. This answer truly did not suit the sisters, and they decided to teach him a lesson. Because of such statements, the sisters wanted to beat him with all their might. The crippled young guy was covered in bruises and abrasions due to the crushing blows of the two ladies, and wanted to find out exactly how things were going with his sister. He wanted to know this because they had just bandaged her, and before that they neutralized the wound and used ointment. Experiencing incredible pain, the girl continued to endure, because this procedure was really necessary so that the infection would not go further. A large amount of medicine was used up, but fortunately, it should have helped. Suddenly, the liquid in the flask with the medicine began to sway, and the sisters thought that an earthquake had begun. Using his ability, the brother decided to find out what was really happening. Unfortunately, it was not an earthquake at all. It turned out to be a giant approaching demon that destroyed everything in its path and created vibrations that made the earth shake. And in his hands was that very scoundrel named Guadefeng, who controlled the demon. You could tell by his wicked smile what plan he had in mind. The demon began to scream with all his might, because he smelled human flesh and was ready to attack. The scream rang out throughout the city, and it could literally make you deaf. At the same time, Hao Lanren didn't understand what this demon wanted to do. With every second the giant was moving closer and closer to the casino building. Suddenly, this creature began to draw air into its lungs. His mouth and lungs were completely filled with air. And this creature multiplied in size, thereby reaching incredible volumes. Suddenly, that same demon released all the accumulated air out. A huge blast wave arose from such an action, and the rings of blast waves destroyed everything in their path that could be destroyed. This explosion was similar to a nuclear one, because it had the same effect as the explosion of a warhead. The sisters and the hero himself still did not understand what this demon was trying to do. As it turned out, by releasing the smell from his mouth, this demon was able to scan the entire space using sound waves. And thus I felt the location of the people whom I had been looking for so long and diligently. The location was revealed and the demon pointed his finger at them and then prepared to attack. Guadefeng's head hurt from this demon's scream. He really hated this technique, but fortunately for them, the location of the target was revealed. The angry man ordered the demon to attack and catch the girls. Swiftly and obediently, the demon began to carry out the fat man's commands and headed off. The giant ran like a runner and destroyed all the obstacles in his path to get to what he wanted. The soil under his feet was rapidly disturbed, because his weight exceeded hundreds of tons. Meanwhile, the sisters began their escape to avoid being noticed. The insidious giant was planning something and continued to move on. But looking towards the demon, Yeki Xiaoli was amazed at what she saw, because the demon was absent. The crushing giant jumped several kilometers into the air and began to fall to the ground. Such a landing created a huge blast wave that absorbed all the buildings that were nearby and destroyed them. Fortunately, my sister managed to avoid this blast wave and survived. The scoundrel was very close, and was going to take the girl with him, to use her for his own purposes. The fat man laughed, after which he said that he saw the beauty whom he wanted to kidnap. He ordered her not to run anywhere, so that she would remain in place and obediently follow his orders. The fact that the girl was running away only fueled interest in her even more. The fat man said that she would be the first, and if he caught her, he would do something to her. The scoundrel ordered the demon to run away after the girl in order to catch up and grab her. The demon's giant hand reached out straight to the girl and tried to grab her. Throughout the city, the girl's screams could be heard as she begged for help and to be saved. The arrogant man only smiled meanly and said that the sister should not twitch, and she could run as much as she wanted, but she could not hide. As soon as the demon opened his hand, the girl inside was not found. The huge creature began to look around, and the scoundrel wanted to find out where exactly the beauty was hiding. She was already in another part of the city, and the giant saw her. The vile man shouted that he was coming for the girl and wanted to do terrible things to her. Loud explosions were heard in the city. These were the steps of a giant who, with just one movement, were able to destroy entire multi-story buildings. Passing through high-rise buildings, the giant continued to follow the target in order to grab the desired prey. The fat man believed that the girl had nowhere else to run, because she ran straight to the casino, and he wanted to see what she could do in this situation. Unexpectedly, Guo Defeng used his belt and a bright light began to come from it. The belt had a built-in flashlight that he could use to light his way. Entering the building, the vile man looked for the girl using a flashlight. Illuminating everything in his path, the scoundrel tried to find the goal he was pursuing. The silhouette of a living person passed next to him, which is what he saw. Unexpectedly, the scoundrel grabbed the baby and said that he was coming for her. But that same girl was able to escape and threw something at the scoundrel. It was a pink handkerchief, and the scoundrel believed that Yechi Xiaoli had decided to agree to his terms. But a very strange smell came from this scarf. Suddenly, someone's hand reached out to meet Guo Defeng's head, causing surprise and tension the moment it approached his face. After receiving a very hard slap, Guo Defeng felt a strong blow directly to his face, which caused him not only physical pain and the feeling of being hit, but also possibly emotional distress or shock reflected on his face or in his reaction to this incident. From this slap the scoundrel fell to the floor, and the girl called him a nasty scoundrel. Such a frantic force of impact was able to throw the scoundrel directly against the wall and destroy part of the building with him. In bewilderment, the man did not understand where such strength came from an ordinary modest girl. And he also wanted to understand why the lady had such a strange voice. This is all because in front of him was not a girl, but a man. The gloating hero was glad that the fat man did not recognize him. The stunned man suggested that the guy had managed to switch hands with the girl. It turned out that the man was not so stupid, and indeed the hero was in a woman's outfit. The angry scoundrel ordered the demon to finish off Hao Lanjun. Then the demon began to destroy the walls that were right next to them and made his attack. Sensing this, the hero immediately began to be on guard and was ready to fight. Luckily, the first strike didn't hit the guy, but he was right next to the epicenter of the explosion. A giant fist began to approach the guy who was dressed in women's clothing. The gloating Guo Defeng was already looking forward to seeing his opponent die, but this only made the hero laugh, and he calmly watched everything that was happening. The giant demon's fist closed, but only his removed clothes were visible near him. Even the demon himself did not understand what was happening here. After all, when the fist closed, all the clothes were near the scene of the incident, but the man himself was not there. This is because the hero changed his clothes very quickly. Seeing this, even the demon himself was shocked. Hao Lanjun was wearing fashionable and beautiful pink pajamas. The man felt confusion and was amazed. He thought that the guy was one of these. The giant demon liked this outfit very much, and the man did not understand what kind of reaction his ally had. Using another item from the inventory, the hero took it out, after which he threw it right next to the man who was standing and did not understand anything. And then, Lanjun told the baby demon to act. The hero really behaved very defiantly and blew kisses for the demon. After all, the guy wanted that same demon to finally bring the man to his knees. In amazement, Guo Defeng continued to watch the events taking place. And then, suddenly he started laughing. Continuing to gloat, he asked if the guy really thought that anyone could control demons. And he believed that idiots like this guy would never be capable of such a thing. But he clearly shouldn't have said this, because the impudent man was in the hands of that same demon. Experiencing severe pain, he was planted on durian. Watching everything that happens, the hero knows that they are not finished yet. And the guy decided to use one more of his abilities, because he wanted to see what would happen after that. The demon was not against the subsequent events, and happily agreed. Together they continued to abuse the face, doing different things to it. The evil Hao Lanren came up behind Guo Defeng and wanted to do something interesting. He took out a whip and decided to whip the scoundrel so that he would know how his victims felt. The disfigured man tried to find out what they would do with him, and whether he could just leave. But he was not destined to do this, and a terrible fate awaited him. After several minutes of the whip, Guodefeng begged for mercy and said that it would never happen again. The guy was amazed that the scoundrel didn't like it, because he thought it was his favorite pastime, because he saw many things in his house, and the man, in bewilderment, did not understand how the stranger knew this. And since he wanted to have fun, the man was going to give him his wife and daughters. He did not yet know that in fact the hero knows that they are his wife and daughter. After all, they are just survivors, and he used the demon to kill men and intimidate women, and imagines himself as a king. In any case, the hero wanted to know not only this, but also how the man controls the demon. The dumbfounded and excited man was confused and did not know whether to answer this question. And then he said that he was lucky. When the epidemic began, he was just an ordinary security guard in a nearby neighborhood. Last winter, he and Lao Jin were looking for food in the casino. While looking around the room for food, the man and woman wanted to find supplies to survive. Previously, the men also discussed that if the zombies came, Guodefeng would be the first to die because he was very weak. And the boxes where the food could have been were completely empty. Suddenly, the man discovered something interesting. The skeleton was wearing a legendary Gucci suit, which was very expensive. Guodefeng couldn't explain why, but when he put on this suit, he immediately felt incredibly rich. His partner got angry at that moment and wanted to find out what this fat guy was doing there. This suit really suited the ragamuffin who had just put it on. After the man was in this suit, it was as if an earthquake began. And in the end something happened that no one could have expected. On their way they met a legendary demon, who arrived straight to the casino and instantly killed his partner. Begging for help, the man thought that the demon would kill him too. He begged, he urged not to touch him, because he longed to survive, to escape from this damned place and leave, go away, away from this threat, from this darkness that enveloped him. However, everything turned out to be much more complicated than it seemed at first glance, and the demon had completely different plans. The decision was made to abandon the idea of killing Guodefeng and leave him alone. When the villain examined the situation more carefully, it became clear to him, at that moment, while he remained in the guise of this suit, the demon, apparently, had no claims against him and could not influence him. Inside his guise, the scoundrel felt confident that the demon seemed to be under his control, ready to obey any orders he gave him. Gathering courage, the hero decided to ask the fat guy if he understood the reasons for such a strange phenomenon. Suddenly realizing the reason for the mysterious connection, the hero continuously handed the fat man the very photograph that seemed to be the lost part of this riddle. The photograph was of a family where the man was dressed in that same suit, and between him and the woman stood a child, an important link connecting them all in this mysterious story. The child in the photograph turned out to be the same demon who suddenly turned into a dark incarnation during the onset of the zombie apocalypse. It was an unexpected discovery that connects the past with the present and reveals strange events in this chaotic world. Because of his father's costume, Guodefeng looked like him, even his movements were similar, so the huge demon decided that he was his father. Therefore, when the hero ordered him, he moved like a woman, which resembled his mother. How Lanjun was able to take advantage of this confusing situation through his cunning plan. He cleverly used his knowledge of identifying the demon with Guodefeng, which gave him an advantage in manipulating the demon. This allowed him to achieve his goals and win this complex game while remaining on one step ahead. The man began to beg for mercy and apologized, after which he began to promise that he could improve. In an attempt to escape, the impudent man also promised that he would return and release those girls who were holding captive. It didn't matter to the heroes whether they were good or bad, but he shouldn't target the hero's own women. Therefore, his fate will be extremely difficult. Therefore, they will also only be able to meet in the next life. Suddenly, the scoundrel took out some kind of ampoule with a substance, and he abruptly began to drink it, as if expecting some effect. How Lanran at that moment, he was already swinging in order to make a powerful blow and destroy the scoundrel. Having made its blow, the fist passed through the villain, and strange things began to happen. Under the power of the violent rage of the hero, something incomprehensible took possession. His eyes sparkled with a red flame, expressing an unquestioning desire to destroy the insolent. Emotions raged inside him, which turned him into an unyielding creature, ready for decisive action without any regrets. The scoundrel began to leak a blue unknown substance containing an unknown composition. His eyes rolled back, like those of a dead man, leaving behind only a trace of a mysterious liquid filling the surrounding space of his body. The hero hit the villain so hard that he flew far to the side. The scoundrel seemed to have fallen and been defeated. Everyone was waiting for what would happen next, worrying and nervous before the next events. His immobilized body lay, and it seemed that he would never get up again. The guy had already begun to leave the scene, in anticipation of his victory. But it was an unusual substance that Guodefeng absorbed. After all, the wound that was left after a strong blow began to recover. The villain's head also began to change, as if his DNA was being altered. The calm guy just watched everything that was happening, and didn't quite understand what was happening. Guodefeng, despite the apparent success, broke the silence, indicating premature joy. His voice sounded like a reminder that the final decision was yet to come, and one should not relax or rush to celebrate until the very end, and his words sounded cautious and waiting for the possible turn of events, forcing the hero to be vigilant and careful. And the fat guy stood half dead. There was a hole in his chest, but he was still moving and was ready to fight. Anxiety began to take over the guy, and he did not understand what to do next. Seeing the bottle of medicine that the scoundrel had just drunk, he immediately realized that this was the medicine that allowed him to regenerate. And he really didn't expect such drinks in the world of the apocalypse. The man laughed and told his friend that he was really strong, and he forced him to resort to this thing, but since he drank it, all his wounds were restored. Today he was going to kill his opponent because he used every precaution he had. The attack on the hero continued, and the villain quickly attacked. The guy at the same time was ready to take the fight, and asked the scoundrel to attack. The fight started and the villain tried to grab the guy and hit him, but only he caught the blow with his face, against the fist of the hero, who stood motionless. The blow was so strong that it could crush any opponent that stood in the way. The villain's head was completely destroyed, and he could no longer fully fight. It would seem that out of confusion, the scoundrel began to fall and grabbed the hero with him. It turned out that the fat guy was still alive, and continued to fight on equal terms. Unable to tolerate this, the smart guy decided to carry out a counterattack and jumped away from the villain. The fat man was very tired, because he was not used to fighting in such a battle. In any case, he did not receive any significant injuries, and was able to recover again. And suddenly he said that the guy was caught because he was able to tear off a piece of the pink pajamas. The man began to tear this piece into even smaller pieces so that they could not be used. This piece of pajamas was torn straight from the part that was on the back. The scoundrel pretended that he was fighting, but in fact he tore the robe, and thus tries to regain control over the demon. At the same time, the guy did not expect that this drink would restore the villain's head. And it was really so. An elderly man tried to defeat a strong opponent with the help of a demon. But it's already very late, and he calls her to come and help. This outcome greatly alarmed the main character, and he did not quite understand what exactly he should do next. There was a strong and colossal explosion. It was expected that the same monster would arrive. The giant demon has arrived again to help his so-called father. The man was sincerely glad that his demon coped with the task so well. But he never expected that the main character would still be standing behind him and would oppose him. With a slight grin on his face, the guy asked if he had played with the demon already. Now he was just about to deal with the two of them, to destroy them at once. The angry man again ordered the demon to kill his enemy. Crossing his arms, the demon decided to launch a powerful attack and use two hands to finish off the hero. In order to avoid this, the smart guy used the Eye of Scarlet Flame. Thus, he could easily watch how that very fast and destructive attack unfolded in slow motion. And accordingly, it's easy to dodge it, because it's much easier to dodge a slow attack. Full of determination, the hero was again ready to fight, and do it on equal terms with the giant demon. Having used his ability, Hao Lanren decided to act further. While dodging the giant's attacks, he continued to move closer to launch his attack. The attacks were of gigantic strength. They could crush any opponent who fell under them. But they were clearly not designed for such a fast opponent, who could easily evade them. The demon was at a loss because he could not keep track of his enemy, because he was incredibly fast. This zombie was indeed very sharp, but also very slow. This outcome of the battle angered the baby zombie even more, and he continued his attacks with the help of a giant tentacle. That same tentacle carried out its attack much faster and more efficiently, thereby unquestioningly hitting its target. With a targeted shot, the tentacle was aimed straight at the guy. But not one of the blows could hit the hero, who also easily dodged them. Suddenly, the demon's tentacles suddenly stopped. At that moment, the hero realized that he had finally caught the demon, and wanted to catch him in this mistake. Grabbing the tentacles, he immediately began to act, without wasting a second. This part of the creature was so powerful that it could not move on its own and became completely useless. The demon screamed in pain, because he experienced a frantic feeling that no one could recreate for him before. The attacks continued again, only now they were carried out with arms and legs, because the tentacle was neutralized. The demon's stock of moves seemed to be exhausted, and he could no longer come up with anything other than ordinary attacks. Now it was the hero's turn to make attacks that should help him win. Jumping straight onto the demon's hand, the hero continued his movement towards the goal. He literally jumped on the giant and began to head towards his head. And at the same time, he gradually wrapped himself around his arms and legs with the help of his own tentacles. One of the arms was thus immobilized, because it was wrapped in those same tentacles. The brave guy continued to act, and gradually immobilized the giant. As a result, the tentacle itself was tied into a knot and could no longer move on its own. The hero successfully used his secret technique and decided to retreat for a while, giving himself a short break after the powerful blow. Using this tactic, the demon hit himself in the face, like a winner, landed on the ground and awaited the development of events in this battle, fervently trying to predict the enemy's next steps, ready to continue the fight. The worried man was watching what was happening all this time, and thought that his opponent was really a monster, because he was able to defeat the demon at such great speed. As soon as the effect of the drink wore off, the fat man immediately realized that he had to run. Laughing evilly, he tried to run away, but it was not so simple. After all, he met the little sister whom he so furiously tried to kidnap, and she owned a katana, which could easily neutralize such an insolent person like him. With a slight movement of the blade, the girl managed to neutralize the most furious villain who had ever met on her way. With the last of his strength, the man turned around to look at his killer. Although he was able to recover again, he was still in incredible pain. And then he again decided to attack the girl whom he so badly wanted to kidnap. Without a doubt, she again continued her attack. That same attack was able to destroy half of the impudent man, and thereby completely immobilize him. The scoundrel did not understand at all how exactly this happened and why it happened. He fell to his knees and said nothing more. As it turned out, it was an incredibly well-aimed sniper shot, which was made by the same sister who received a brand new sniper rifle. The brave girl was also easily able to neutralize the insolent man who tried to encroach on the life of her sister. The insidious scoundrel tried to find out where the sisters got such a rifle, and he continued to laugh again, after which he began to recover, but the girl reminded him that the impudent person needs to think about his head. The lady immediately decided to bring the dagger right to his eyes, because her brother told her to do it, and also, he mentioned that this scoundrel would definitely die today. Events continued to take place in a dark and gloomy city, in one of the apartments that was located outside the casino area. Namely, in an apartment where a strong knock was heard on the door. The so-called daughters and wife of the insolent man were sitting there. They were alarmed and thought that the zombies were knocking and wanted to finish them off. The mentally ill woman also believed that these were zombies and they were all going to die. There began knocking and rumbling, as if someone was persistently trying to break through. The sounds were inexorable, filling the room with tension and unknown anxiety. In the end, she turned out to be one of the sisters who wanted to understand why they were here, locked in this room. She was also eager to find out why they were stuck here, doing nothing and doing nothing. They were all afraid to go outside because they thought that zombies were coming towards them. The little sister also said that while she was getting up, there was a video of fat man going to the casino, and the girl thought that the arrogant man would not return, and they should run away. The sister immediately agreed, but the so-called wife was against it, because she thought that if Guodefeng returned, he would kill them. At the same time, the girl had a bottle on her back and was talking about a good offer, which was actually promptly suggested by the sister who wanted to be saved. Events continued in the casino building. A demon was in full swing there, arriving at that very building. He fought with the main character, giving all his strength to destroy him. At the same time, one of his arms was blocked, making normal vision and fighting nearly impossible. Freed from the tentacles that were in his way, the demon finally freed his hand. After that, in his eyes one could see the wild rage that took possession of him. The hero clearly did not expect this scoundrel to escape so quickly. The battle continued, and the giant made his crushing attacks on the city outskirts, and thereby tried to destroy the guy. A tentacle also entered the battle, moving at incredible speed and causing enormous damage. At the same time, the clever guy was already moving with all his might along the scoundrel's hand, and was climbing higher and higher with every second. Literally in an instant, he was already right next to his head. With a deft movement, jumping higher and higher, there were only a few meters left to the main goal. The brave hero decided to use one of the 18 blows that fear the skies. This blow is really serious, but it's also pretty simple. This kind of blow really had a good effect on the monster, and it flew several hundred meters away. Thus, after the blow he was completely immobilized, and seemed unable to get up. Suddenly, a large number of lightning bolts appeared near his head, which seemed to restore him, and quickly reincarnated the flesh on his head. This meant that if you simply injured the tender parts, they would still recover very quickly. The little demon really turned out to be tough. Therefore, the mighty and brave guy was going to smash his giant head. Meanwhile, events took place sisterly. The insolent man was cornered and a sword was put to his head. His wounds healed very quickly, and it was noticeable that he no longer looked human. The sister decided to find out what the scoundrel drank, because she thought that perhaps this medicine could help her sister. The fat man said that this thing was really very good, because whatever sheep he had, they should all be overgrown, and if a girl needs this medicine and she lets it go, then he can easily give it. Meanwhile, the scoundrel's heart began to beat faster. A sharp pain pierced his body, making him feel unbearable agony. Vague and unclear premonitions arose in his mind, making it impossible to understand what was happening to his physical condition. The heart continued to beat faster every second, it ached and burned. It seemed that this was a side effect and it should end soon, so the impudent man was about to run away. The stunned lady did not understand what exactly was happening to this man. The enemy's arm began to recover again, but pain permeated him all this time. During recovery, the hand seemed to be on fire, although there was no such sensation before.